Hello, everyone, and welcome to Subreddit Dreams. I've been scouring the front pages and hidden gems of Reddit to bring you the most fascinating and unbelievable stories on the platform. If you love a great narrative as much as I do, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. Grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's get straight into the stories.
Story 1. My life on paper is perfect. I know how that sounds. But it's true. I'm a stay-at-home mom to a whip-smart 7-year-old Lily. My husband Mark is a cardiothoracic surgeon. Yes, a heart surgeon. Our house is beautiful, my car is new, and my biggest stress on any given Tuesday is whether to do Pilates or yoga. It's a good life. A privileged life. I'm not ashamed of it. Mark worked his ass off for it. And I work my ass off keeping our home and our daughter's world running like a well-oiled machine. My stepsister Chloe has a different life. Our moms got married when we were in high school, throwing us into a blended family mess we never asked for. We were never close. She was always prickly. Now she's a single mom to 3 kids under 10, working as a receptionist at a dental office. Her life is a constant frantic scramble, which is why I help. A lot. At least 2 or 3 times a week I have her kids over. After school on weekends, whenever she gets called into work or just needs a damn break. I never ask for a dime. I feed them, help with homework, drive them to the park with Lily. I do it because they're family. And honestly, because Chloe looks like she's always one minor inconvenience away from shattering into a million pieces. The annual 4th of July BBQ was at my mom and stepfather's house this year. It was hot, the air thick with the smell of chlorine from the pool and sizzling burgers on the grill. Lily was chasing Chloe's 2 boys, Mason and Noah, around the yard with a water gun, their shrieks of laughter cutting through the low hum of adult conversation. Chloe's youngest, a little girl named Maya, was asleep in her stroller under the shade of a big oak tree. Mark and I had just celebrated our 10th anniversary. He'd been on call for the actual day, so we were celebrating now with family. He pulled me aside near the patio, a mischievous grin on his face. "Close your eyes," he whispered. I rolled my eyes but played along. I felt him slide something cool and heavy onto my left wrist. Then he took my right hand, and a second, more delicate piece of jewelry circled my other wrist. "Okay, open." I looked down. On my left wrist was a stunning diamond tennis bracelet, each stone catching the afternoon sun and exploding with light. On my right, nestled next to my wedding set, was a platinum eternity band, just as brilliant. My jaw literally dropped. "Mark, this is too much." "Nothing's too much for you," he said, kissing my temple. "Happy anniversary, babe." I threw my arms around his neck, feeling a dizzying rush of love and gratitude. Of course, I had to show someone. My mom was the first person I grabbed. She gushed appropriately, holding my hands up to the light. "Oh, Andrea. They're breathtaking. Mark, you're a keeper." Chloe was sitting at a picnic table trying to coax Maya to eat some mashed up banana. She saw us looking at the jewelry, and her mouth tightened into a thin straight line. I knew that look. But I was floating on a cloud of anniversary bliss, so I walked over my good mood, refusing to be punctured. "Chloe, look what Mark got me," I said, maybe a little too enthusiastically. I held out my hands. She glanced down, her eyes lingering for just a second before flicking back to her daughter's face. "Wow," she said, her voice completely flat. "That's a lot of diamonds." "I know, isn't he insane?" I laughed, nudging Mark playfully. I told him it was way too much. "Yeah," she said, scraping the spoon around the little plastic container. "It is." The air went cold. An awkward silence fell between us. Mark, bless his conflict-avoidant heart, cleared his throat. Well, I'm gonna go check on the grill. Make sure your stepdad doesn't turn the steaks into charcoal. He gave my shoulder a squeeze and made a quick escape. I should have left it alone. I should have walked away. But I couldn't stand the tension. Are you okay? I asked, my voice softer. I'm fine, Andrea, she said, not looking at me. Just peachy. Before I could reply, my stepfather Rick lumbered over, a beer in his hand and a sheen of sweat on his forehead. He was a good guy, but with the subtlety of a runaway train. What's all the fuss, he boomed. His eyes immediately landed on my wrists. Whoa. Look at that hardware. Mark's treating you right, kiddo. He clapped me on the shoulder. Then he turned his full oblivious attention to Chloe. He gestured toward my new Eternity band with his beer bottle. Hey Chloe, he said, his voice loud enough for the whole patio to hear. When are you getting a ring from that fella of yours? Chloe was seeing some guy named Kevin. A roofer. It was new. It was casual. It was definitely not at the diamond ring stage. Every drop of color drained from Chloe's face. It was like he'd slapped her. She slowly put the spoon down on the table, her movement stiff and deliberate. The happy noise of the party seemed to fade into the background. All I could hear was the blood pounding in my own ears. She finally looked up, but not at Rick. Her eyes, dark and stormy, locked directly onto mine. Not everybody can afford to waste thousands of dollars on a shiny rock. Rick, she snapped, her voice laced with pure venom. Rick froze, the dopey smile sliding off his face. He finally realized he'd stepped on a landmine. Oh. I just meant. It's fine, I jumped in, trying to smooth things over. My heart was racing. I put on my best gentle conciliatory voice, the one I used when Lily was on the verge of a tantrum. Chloe, I'm so sorry. We weren't trying to rub anything in your face, I promise. It's just an anniversary gift. It was the worst possible thing I could have said. My attempt at sympathy landed like a spark in a puddle of gasoline. Chloe's chair scraped against the concrete as she shot to her feet. Maya, startled by the sudden movement, started to cry. Oh, stop it, she hissed, her voice low and dangerous. Just stop. Don't you dare patronize me with your fake pity. Oh, Chloe. I'm sorry your life is a dumpster fire while mine is so perfect. She mimicked my voice in a high, mocking tone. That's not what I was doing. Isn't it? She cut me off, taking a step closer. The whole yard was quiet now. Everyone was watching. My mom was hovering nearby, her face pale. Mark was frozen by the grill, tongs in hand. Chloe's eyes raked over me, from my salon-perfect hair to my designer sandals lingering on the new diamonds sparkling on my wrists. A humorless, ugly smirk twisted her lips. God, don't you ever get tired of it? She asked, her voice dripping with a disgust so profound it made me flinch. Of being so useless. I stared at her, completely stunned. What did you just say to me? She leaned in, and the whole world narrowed to her furious, tear-filled eyes. You heard me, she whispered. But the words carried across the silent yard like a gunshot. Just a useless little gold digger living off your husband's money. The words hung in the humid air, thick and ugly. Useless little gold digger. For a second, I couldn't breathe. It felt like the world had tilted sideways. My husband, my mom, her husband, all frozen in a terrible tableau. The only sounds were the distant sizzle of the grill and Maya beginning to wail in her stroller. What did you say to me? I finally managed my voice, a strangled whisper. You heard me, Chloe, spat, her face contorted with a rage I'd never seen up close. It was biblical. You flaunt it all, don't you? The big house, the fancy car, the fucking diamonds. You parade your perfect life around like a trophy while the rest of us are drowning. That is not true. I shot back, my own anger flaring hot and fast, burning away the shock. I help you, I watch your kids all the time. For free, she shrieked, throwing her hands up in the air. Yes, you watch them for times, free times, another little act of charity from St. Andrea to make yourself feel good. Do you have any idea what that does to my kids? To me? She took another step, invading my space, her finger jabbing the air between us. My kids come home from your palace talking about Lily's playroom, Lily's horseback riding lessons, Lily's trip to Disney World. My Maya cries because Lily gets to do ballet times and times gymnastics, and I have to tell her we can't afford it. I have to see the look on her face when she asks why Santa isn't as good to her as he is to her cousin. Do you have any idea what that feels like? To feel like a constant failure in your own children's eyes, because you can't compete with your perfect rich stepsister. Every word was a punch to the gut. All the years of resentment she kept bottled up were pouring out of her like poison. My attempts to help, my genuine efforts to ease her burden, she saw them all as a personal attack. I felt a cold fury settle over me. The desire to be nice, to de-escalate, to be the bigger person, it all evaporated. So this is my fault, I said, my voice dangerously low. My fault you can't afford ballet. My fault your life isn't what you want it to be. It's your fault for rubbing it in my face every chance you get. I wasn't rubbing anything in your face. I was yelling, now I didn't care. I was happy. My husband gave me a gift and I was happy. Is that not allowed? Am I supposed to hide my life from you? So you don't feel bad about yours? You could try having some fucking class. That was it. I was done. You're a jealous witch, Chloe. I said, the words coming out sharp and mean. I saw her flinch, but I didn't stop. I have spent years bending over backwards for you. Driving your kids around. Feeding them. Treating them like my own. And for what? So you can stand here and accuse me of being useless, of being a gold digger. All because you're miserable and want someone to blame. I took a breath, ready to deliver the final fatal blow. You want me to stop making your kids jealous? Fine. Consider my free babysitting services officially closed. From now on, you can pay for childcare like everyone else. Let's see how much money you have for ballet lessons then. The silence that followed was absolute. Chloe stared at me. Her mouth slightly open, the rage in her eyes replaced by a flicker of pure shock, then panic. She had pushed and pushed, and I had finally pushed back with the one thing that could actually destroy her. She didn't say another word. She spun around, snatched a crying Maya from her stroller, and barked at her sons. Mason, Noah, we're leaving. Now. The boys stopped their game of tag, their happy faces instantly crumpling with confusion. But Mom, we didn't have cake yet, Mason whined. I said now. Chloe screamed. She practically dragged them across the lawn, not even bothering to gather their pool towels or shoes. She fumbled with the gate, threw it open, and stormed out to her beat-up minivan without a single look back. The slam of her car door echoed across the now silent party. My whole body was shaking. Mark was instantly at my side, his arm wrapping around my waist, holding me up. Are you okay? he murmured into my hair. I just shook my head, unable to speak. My mother rushed over her face, a mask of distress. Andrea, my God. You need to go after her. You have to apologize. I turned and stared at her, incredulous. Apologize? Did you hear what she said to me? She called me a useless gold digger. I know, honey, I know, she said, her hands fluttering nervously. But she's hurting. Her life is hard. You know she didn't mean it. Oh, she meant every single word I said, pulling away from Mark to face her fully. And I am not apologizing. Not this time. Andrea, please, she begged, her voice dropping to a whisper. Just do it to keep the peace. For the family. To keep the peace, I laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. You mean so you and Rick don't have to feel uncomfortable? There is no peace, Mom. She just nuked it. I'm the one who is owed an apology, and I'm damn sure not going to get one. I turned and walked away, Mark following close behind. The party was over. People were gathering their things, murmuring quiet goodbyes, desperate to escape the toxic cloud that had settled over the backyard. We helped Lily pack up her things and left in near silence. The next few days were a tense quiet. My mom called twice, leaving voicemails about the importance of family and forgiveness. I deleted them both without listening all the way through. On Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Chloe. My stomach clenched. Can you watch the kids Friday night, Kevin? And I have a thing. I stared at the message, at the casual entitled request, as if nothing had happened. As if she hadn't ripped me to shreds in front of our entire family. Did she think I wasn't serious? That it was just an empty threat made in the heat of the moment? That I would just roll over and go back to being her free, convenient solution? I felt that same cold fury from the BBQ rise up in me. But this time, it was calm. Resolute. I typed out a reply, my thumb steady. No. I can't. I sent it. She replied almost instantly. Why not? I could have listed 1,000 reasons. I could have rehashed the entire fight. I could have screamed at her through the phone. Instead, I gave her the simple, unvarnished truth she'd created. You'll have to find other arrangements. I blocked her number. Then I went to Lily's room, sat on the floor, and helped her build a castle out of Legos, feeling the weight of a one-sided relationship I had carried for years finally blessedly begin to lift. Story 2. Leah and I were supposed to be a team. That was the deal. We stood in front of 100 people holding hands and promised to build a life together. For me, that meant everything. A home, a partnership, kids, especially kids. 2 years tops, she'd whispered on our honeymoon, her head on my chest. I want a little you running around. I believed her. I was an idiot. 2 years came and went. Our new house, once echoing with plans and laughter, fell silent. The nursery we'd painted a hopeful neutral yellow remained empty, its door always closed. It became a shrine to a future that was refusing to arrive. Every month was a new cycle of hope and failure. I tracked her ovulation on an app like a stock market obsessive watching his portfolio tank. I tried to initiate to make it romantic, but it all felt so clinical. It's the right time, I'd say, trying to sound casual. She'd sigh, a puff of air that carried all the enthusiasm of a tax audit. I'm tired, Rye. It's been a long week. Leah was a literature professor at the local college. Her weeks were always long. She started coming home later, her briefcase stuffed with ungraded papers. The smell of campus old books and cheap coffee clung to her like a second skin. It was a world I wasn't part of, a wall she was building brick by brick. The doctor's appointments started. I went to every single one. Humiliating tests, invasive questions. My results came back perfect. Super swimmers, the doctor had joked. We waited for Leah's. More tests, more appointments. She insisted on going to alone. It's a female thing, you wouldn't get it, she'd say, waving me off. The results were always inconclusive. Unexplained infertility, she called it, a vague, frustrating label that answered nothing. But her reaction was the strangest part. I was a wreck, scouring infertility forms at 3 a.m. But Leah, she was calm, detached. When another month passed without a positive test, I'd be crushed, and she'd just shrug. It'll happen when it happens. Her lack of concern felt colder than any rejection. Our bed became a frozen tundra. My touch was an intrusion. She'd flinch if my leg brushed against hers, turning her back to me before I could even try. The intimacy wasn't just gone. It was actively repelled. I was living with a ghost in a house that felt like a mausoleum. My own home. I'd walk through the rooms we decorated together and feel like a trespasser. The silence was deafening, broken only by the frantic ticking of my own mind. Was I not enough? Was I doing something wrong? The stress was eating me alive. The breaking point was our 3rd anniversary. 3 years. I was desperate to fix us, to find a flicker of the woman I'd married. I made a reservation at the tiny Italian place where we had our first date. I bought the dress she'd pointed out in a shop window weeks ago. I left a note on her pillow, be ready by 7. I love you. 7 o'clock came and went. Then 8. Then 9. My calls went straight to voicemail. I sat at our dining room table, the takeout I'd ordered instead getting cold, staring at the empty chair across from me. At 1:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text. Asterisk, so sorry, baby. Got swamped with a department project. Totally lost track of time. Can we do our anniversary this weekend? Rain check, so asterisk. She didn't come home that night. She walked in the next morning at 9 looking exhausted, carrying a stack of blue-covered term papers. She offered a tired mechanical apology about a last-minute deadline with a new prodigy student who needed extra help. A real go-getter, she said. She lied. She just stood there and lied to my face. The apology was an insult. The excuse was tissue paper thin. In that moment, watching her pour a coffee like it was just another Tuesday, the love I had for her curdled into something else. Something cold and hard. I didn't yell. I didn't even argue. I just nodded, watched her walk upstairs. And then I went into my home office, closed the door, and looked up a number I never thought I'd need. Marcus Thorne, Private Investigations, a gravelly voice answered. I need to hire you, I said, my own voice, a stranger's. I think my wife is having an affair. A week later, I was sitting in a vinyl chair in a strip mall office that smelled of stale cigarettes. Marcus, a man whose face looked like a crumpled road map, didn't waste time with pleasantries. He slid a thick manila envelope across his desk. She's not very subtle, he said, his voice devoid of any emotion. This student, Ryan, is a TA for her American Modernism class. They meet at a coffee shop near campus 3 times a week. Then they go back to his apartment. They usually stay for 2 or 3 hours. My hands were shaking. I couldn't bring myself to open the flap. My entire world was inside that envelope, and I knew once I looked there was no going back. The photos are time-stamped, Marcus continued, including last night. Your anniversary. That did it. I ripped it open. The first picture was of them at a small table leaning in close, her hand on his arm, laughing at something he'd said. She hadn't looked at me like that in years. The next photo was them on the street, his arm around her waist. The next, them kissing at the door to his apartment building. It was a brutal, systematic dismantling of my marriage in 8x10 glossies. I drove home in a daze, the photos a lead weight on the passenger seat. The house was empty. Silent. Just like always. I walked straight upstairs to our bedroom, the room where we were supposed to build our family, and pulled a duffel bag from the closet. I was done. I just needed to grab my things and disappear. I moved with a numb, robotic efficiency. Clothes, laptop, phone charger. I went into the master bathroom for my toothbrush. My hand trembled, knocking her toiletry bag off the counter. Its contents spilled across the tile: lipstick, mascara, travel-sized, shampoo, and something else. A small white plastic packet. The kind with little bubbles for each day of the week. It was a blister pack of birth control pills. One pill was missing. Yesterday's. My breath caught in my throat. I fumbled through the bag's inner pocket. I found another one empty. And another. And another. A whole damn pharmacy. A 2-year history of meticulous, calculated deception. It wasn't infertility. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't us. It was her. All her. Every doctor's visit, every tear I shed, every dollar we spent, it was all a lie. The affair was a knife in my back. But this was the poison she'd been feeding me for years. It was the complete and total annihilation of our entire life together. The grief that had frozen my veins for the last hour evaporated, replaced by a white-hot diamond-hard rage. Leaving wasn't enough. Disappearing was too kind. She didn't deserve an easy exit. She deserved to have her world burned to the ground just like she'd burned mine. I stopped packing my bag. I stood in the middle of our cold, silent bedroom, the photos in one hand and the pills in the other. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Marcus. So his voice crackled on the line. What do you want to do now, kid? A slow, cold smile spread across my face. I looked at my reflection in the dresser mirror. The man looking back was not the man who had woken up this morning. He was gone forever. I'm not leaving, I said, my voice steady and clear. I'm going to need you to find me a videographer. We're going to stage a finale. Marcus didn't ask questions. Professionals don't. He just grunted an affirmative and told me he knew a guy. The plan was simple, brutal, and elegant. Marcus would be my witness. His guy, a stoic man named Frank, who usually filmed depositions, would be my record. I paid them both in cash. For 2 days I lived in my own house like a ghost. I slept in the guest room. I used the downstairs bathroom. I took the photos of us off the walls, replacing them with bare hooks that looked like tiny accusing claws. Leah came and went oblivious. She moved through the rooms with her usual detached air, chattering about department politics and grading curves. She didn't notice a single change. It was like I was already gone. The text came on Thursday night, just as Marcus predicted it would. Asterisk Leah. Hey, working late with my study group to prep for midterms. Don't wait up. So? Asterisk. study group, I muttered, looking at the live feed from the hidden camera I'd paid Marcus to install above the front door. I sat in my car a block away, watching my wife pull into our driveway on a small monitor. She wasn't alone. The prodigy student Ryan unfolded himself from her passenger seat. He looked young, smug, and utterly clueless. They walked inside. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Marcus sat beside me, silent, sipping a coffee. Frank was in the back, checking his camera settings. "Give them 20 minutes, Marcus," said, his voice a low rumble. "Let them get comfortable." It was the longest 20 minutes of my life. I imagined every sound, every movement inside the house we had built together. The house where I dreamed of hearing a baby's laughter. Finally, Marcus nodded. Showtime. I walked up my own front path, my key sliding into the lock with a familiar, sickening click. Marcus and Frank followed, silent as shadows. The house was quiet except for the low murmur of the TV from the master bedroom upstairs. We took the stairs two at a time. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. I didn't hesitate. I kicked it open. The scene was exactly what I'd expected, yet 1,000 times worse. Leah in my robe was perched on the edge of my bed. Ryan was shirtless, standing by the dresser laughing at something she'd said. Frank's camera light flicked on a sudden blinding sun in their private little world. Leah's face went through a rapid-fire series of expressions: confusion, then annoyance, then pure, unadulterated horror. As she saw me, then Marcus behind me, then the unblinking red eye of the camera. "Jake, what the hell is this?" she shrieked, clutching the robe closed. Ryan just froze, a deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming train. I didn't say a word to her. I walked past them, picked a stack of papers off the nightstand, and tossed them onto the bed. "Divorce papers," I said, my voice eerily calm. "You're being served. This is my witness. And this," I gestured to Frank, "is my evidence." Leah's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. She stared at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of rage and panic. "Get out," I said, the words like chips of ice. I wasn't talking to her. I was talking to him. Ryan fumbled for his shirt, his hands shaking, and practically scrambled out of the room. He didn't even look back. I turned and walked out, leaving her there amidst the wreckage. Frank followed, his camera still rolling, capturing her pathetic, gasping sobs. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder as we reached the bottom of the stairs. "It's done," he said. I just nodded and walked out the front door, not looking back. The next morning, I sent a neatly packaged email. The recipients were the Dean of Arts and Sciences, the head of the English department, and the chair of the university's disciplinary committee. The subject line was "Simple Times formal complaint regarding Professor Leah Miller ***. Attached were the time-stamped photos and a password-protected link to last night's video. The fallout was swift and merciless. Leah was placed on administrative leave by noon. Ryan was suspended by the end of the day. A week later, a formal notice went out. Leah's contract had been terminated for gross ethical misconduct. Ryan was expelled. I heard through the grapevine that his parents, who were major university donors, were apoplectic. Leah's first response was a string of furious texts. "You psycho, you'll pay for this. You've ruined my life, ***." Then came the call from her lawyer, a shark who accused me of everything from illegal surveillance to emotional abuse. My lawyer just laughed and sent him the video file. We never heard from him again. For a few weeks, there was silence. I changed the locks. I packed up all of her things into boxes and stacked them in the garage. The house was mine again. The quiet didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt like peace. Then one rainy Tuesday night, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and my stomach tightened. It was Leah. She looked diminished. Her hair was a mess. Her face was pale and drawn, and she was wearing a cheap raincoat that was soaked through. The confident, untouchable professor was gone. In her place was a beggar. I opened the door. "Jake," she whispered. Her voice was raw. "Can I please come in just for a minute?" I stepped aside and let her drip onto the entryway rug. She looked around the living room at the bare walls where our photos used to be. It was a mistake. She started, the tears already welling up. A stupid, horrible mistake. He meant nothing to me. I was just lost. But I love you. I've always loved you. We can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can still have the family we talked about. She took a step toward me, her hands outstretched. I didn't move. I just let her talk. Let her empty herself of all the pathetic rehearsed lines. When she was finished gasping for breath between sobs, I just stared at her, my face a mask of stone. "Are you done?" I asked quietly. She flinched. "Jake, please." The affair was the symptom, Leah, not the disease. I walked to the hall closet, opened it, and pulled out a small Ziploc bag. I held it up. Inside were the dozens of empty birth control packets I'd found. Her little white blister packs of lies. Her eyes locked onto the bag, and every last drop of color drained from her face. The fake tears stopped. The desperate pleading died in her throat. This was a truth she couldn't spin. Unexplained infertility. I said the words dripping with sarcasm. All those appointments. All that money. Watching me tear myself apart month after month, thinking I was broken, that times we were broken. I shook my head, a bitter smile twisting my lips. The affair I almost could have understood. But this making me believe I couldn't be a father, letting me mourn a family you were actively preventing. That's not a mistake. That's evil. She had nothing. No words. No defense, just the blank, hollow stare of someone whose soul had been laid bare and found to be completely rotten. "I want you to leave my house," I said, my voice low and final. I walked to the front door and held it open for her. "And I never want to see you again." She stumbled out into the rain, a ghost flushed out into the night. I watched her walk away until her silhouette vanished into the downpour. Then I closed the door, locked it. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt the weight of it all lift. I was free. Story 3. The key to my Soho loft felt heavier than usual. It was a weight I'd grown used to over the past 2 years, ever since my older sister Diana had decided my spare bedroom was her permanent 5-star hotel. I pushed open the door, the scent of expensive perfume and laziness hitting me first. There she was, draped across my custom-made velvet sofa like a tragic queen scrolling through her phone. Her blonde hair, a shade brassier than mine, was a mess against a silk pillow I'd paid a fortune for. She didn't look up. "Tough day at the salt mines?" she asked, her voice dripping with that bored sarcasm she'd perfected. "I run a business, Diana. It's not a salt mine." I dropped my portfolio, the sketches for my new fall line rustling inside. Did you at least take the recycling out? She finally looked at me, her blue eyes so much colder than mine narrowing. The bin was full and heavy. Of course it was. I ignored her and walked to the kitchen, a sleek, minimalist space she treated like a 2-4-hour diner. A dirty plate sat on the marble countertop, smeared with the remnants of the artisanal cheese I'd been saving. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Then the buzzer rang. My heart did a little flip. Lucas. I buzzed him up, a real smile finally breaking through my exhaustion. When he walked in, the entire energy of the apartment shifted. He was all warm eyes and easy confidence, a stark contrast to the stagnant air Diana curated. He kissed me, a real grounding kiss that made me forget all about dirty plates and freeloading sisters. "Hey you," he murmured against my lips. He held up a bottle of champagne. "For us." Diana materialized at the edge of the kitchen. "Celebrating something?" she asked, her tone implying we just won a participation trophy. Lucas just smiled at her, unflappable. He never let her get to him. "Always," he said, his eyes finding mine again. Later that night, after a dinner he'd insisted on cooking, we were curled up on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below us. Diana had mercifully locked herself in her room to FaceTime her loser on again, off again boyfriend Frederick. "I can't do this anymore," Mabel, Lucas said softly. My stomach plummeted. What are you talking about?" He turned to me, his expression serious, and took my hands. "I can't spend another day not being your husband." He slid off the chaise lounge and onto one knee, pulling a small black box from his pocket. "I can't live in a world where you're just my girlfriend. Marry me." Tears streamed down my face before I even saw the ring, a stunning, simple emerald-cut diamond that was so perfectly times me asterisk. "Yes," I breathed. "God, yes." We were kissing, laughing, crying when the balcony doors slid open with a screech. Diana stood there wrapped in one of my robes, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. "You're engaged," she spat, looking from the ring on my finger to my tear-streaked face. "We are," I said, my joy too big to be punctured. Her laugh was brittle, ugly. "I can't believe this. I'm the older sister, Mabel. I'm supposed to go first. It's the proper way. Everyone knows that." Lucas stood up, placing himself slightly in front of me. "That's not really how it works, Diana." "Oh, shut up, Lucas," she snapped. "This is a family matter. You wouldn't understand." She glared at me, her eyes filled with a venom that chilled me to the bone. "This is so typical of you. Always have to have everything, don't you? The career, the apartment, and now the fiancé. You couldn't just let me have one thing." She stormed back inside, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled. The weeks that followed were a masterclass in passive aggression. Diana would accidentally leave her wet towel on my wedding dress sketches. She'd make comments about how quickly Lucas had proposed, hinting that he must have a secret or reason to lock me down so fast. She started dressing up whenever he was around, wearing things that were far too revealing for an evening at home, leaning over him to grab the remote, letting her hand linger on his shoulder. Lucas was a saint. He'd gently move away, change the subject, or pointedly grab my hand and pull me onto his lap. He'd look at her with polite confusion, as if he couldn't comprehend her behavior. It only made her try harder. "She's jealous, Mabe," he told me one night. "It's sad, but you can't let her ruin this." He was right. I tried to set boundaries. "Diana, I need you to stop flirting with my fiancé," I told her bluntly one Saturday. She feigned shock, her hand flying to her chest. "Flirting? I'm just being friendly, God, Mabel. You've become so insecure since you got that ring. Is Lucas making you feel that way?" It was dizzying, like trying to fight smoke. Then came the day of my big meeting with Sachs. It was the culmination of 6 months of work. A successful pitch meant my line would go nationwide. I'm so nervous I could throw up, I told Lucas as I fastened my earrings. He came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist and kissing my shoulder. You're going to kill it. And when you get back, I'll have a celebratory dinner waiting. Just us. I glanced toward the living room. Diana was on the sofa, of course, pretending to read a book. But I knew she was listening to every word. An unsettling feeling washed over me. Maybe you should go to your place until I get back, I whispered to Lucas. He squeezed me gently. I'm not letting her scare me out of our home. I'll be fine. I'll just put on my headphones and work. Don't worry. I kissed him one last time and left my anxiety a tangled knot in my gut. The meeting was a dream. They loved everything. They wanted an exclusive for the first 6 months. I was floating, walking on air, as I left their headquarters 2 hours earlier than expected. I decided to surprise him. I didn't call or text, I just pictured the look on his face when I walked in with the news. I practically skipped the last block home, my keys already in my hand. I unlocked the door, pushing it open quietly. I wanted to hear what he was listening to catch him off guard. But there was no music. Only a strange rhythmic thumping sound. And a whimper. My blood ran cold. I shoved the door all the way open and stepped inside. The scene in front of me didn't register at first. It was like a photograph from a nightmare, my brain refusing to process the pieces. Diana was on the floor. Her silk blouse torn at the shoulder. Her face streaked with tears. Lucas was standing over her, one hand braced against the wall. He was swaying, his movements clumsy. His eyes, normally so sharp and full of life, were glassy and unfocused. He blinked slowly, looking toward the door toward me. But there was no recognition in his gaze. Just a deep, unnerving confusion. Then Diana saw me. A choked sob ripped from her throat. Mabel, she screamed, her voice shattering the silence. Thank God you're here. He wouldn't stop. The world tilted. My portfolio, the one holding my entire future, slipped from my grasp and scattered sketches across the floor. What did you do? I whispered, my eyes locked on Lucas. He stumbled back, shaking his head as if trying to clear away cobwebs. His mouth opened, but only a thick, slurred sound came out. He came onto me, Mabel, Diana wailed, scrambling to her feet and rushing to my side, grabbing my arm. Her touch felt like ice. He kept saying things, awful things. He said you were just practice. No, Lucas mumbled, his hand on his forehead. Dizzy. She gave me. Don't listen to him, Diana shoved a sheaf of folded papers into my hand. I found these in his briefcase this morning. I didn't want to believe it. But then, this. My hands trembled as I unfolded them. It was Lucas's handwriting, or a near-perfect forgery of it. The words were vulgar, graphic, detailing fantasies about Diana. Mocking me, calling me a naive stepping stone to get to her. My stomach heaved. The careful, elegant script I knew from 100 love notes was twisted into something predatory and foul. Lucas, my voice was a thread. He looked at me, his eyes pleading, but they were still clouded, unfocused. Mabe, it's not. He couldn't form a sentence. The sight of him so disoriented and clumsy, mixed with the vile words on the page and my sister's terrified sobs, cemented a reality I couldn't escape. Get out, I said, the words like shards of glass in my throat. What, he slurred, taking a weak step toward me. Get out of my apartment. Now. Diana stood behind me, a righteous shield. Lucas stared, the confusion in his eyes slowly being replaced by a dawning, soul-crushing horror as he began to understand. He looked from my face to Diana's, and some piece of the puzzle clicked for him, but it was too late. He just shook his head, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek, and turned. He stumbled out the door, leaving it gaping open behind him. The silence he left was heavier than any sound. I sank to the floor, the forged letters crinkling in my fist, and let my sister hold me as I sobbed. The next few weeks were a gray blur. I broke the engagement, publicly citing irreconcilable differences. The humiliation was a physical weight. Lucas called, texted, emailed. Hundreds of messages. Asterisk, she drugged me, Mabe. It was a setup. Please just talk to me. Asterisk, I deleted them all. Without reading past the first line. How could he lie like that? How could he be so cruel? Diana was a model of sisterly support, making me tea, ordering my favorite food, telling me I was better off without that predator. She was finally the center of my world, the one I relied on. And I hated it. The loft felt haunted by Lucas's absence and suffocated by her presence. I came home early one Friday, a migraine pounding behind my eyes. I was about to put my key in the lock when I heard shouting from inside. Diana. And her pathetic boyfriend, Frederick. I can't believe you're spending it all on designer crap, he roared. You promised me half. I'm not spending it, you idiot. I'm investing in a new wardrobe. Diana slurred. She was obviously drunk. Mabel's sad, but she's not stupid. I have to look like a supportive sister, not like I just came into a windfall. My key froze an inch from the lock. A windfall. A windfall you got by ruining her life? Frederick yelled. Forging those letters took me a week. My hands still cramps up. And finding the right tranquilizer. Do you know how hard that was? You owe me, Diana. The floor fell away. I couldn't breathe. The air was thick, syrupy, choking me. Tranquilizer. Forging letters. I owe you nothing, she spat. She deserved it. Little Miss Perfect with her perfect career, in her perfect apartment, and her perfect fiancé. I'm the older sister. That was supposed to be my time's life. She stole it. I just took a little piece of it back. Rage pure and white-hot burned through the fog of my grief. I shoved the key in the lock, twisted it, and threw the door open so hard it slammed against the wall. They both spun around, their faces a comical mask of shock. Frederick was pale and sweating. Diana's eyes were wide, but in them I saw no fear. No regret. Just annoyance at being caught. Get out, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Diana recovered first, plastering a concerned look on her face. Mabel, honey, you misunderstood. I understood perfectly, I said, my voice rising with every word. You drugged him. You tore your own shirt. You wrote those letters. You looked me in the eye, and you lied while my entire world was falling apart. Frederick started backing toward the door. Look, She made me. Both of you. Get your things and get out of my home. Now. Diana's face hardened, the mask falling away to reveal the ugly, raw entitlement beneath. Fine. She snapped, grabbing her purse. I don't need you. I never did. You think you're so much better than me. But you're just a pathetic little girl who was easy to fool. She showed no remorse. None. That was the part that broke the last remaining thread of connection between us. She wasn't just a bad sister. She was a monster. "You have 5 minutes to take what's yours," I said, pointing to her bedroom. "Then I'm changing the locks and calling the police if I ever see either of you again." She scoffed, but she moved. They scurried around like rats stuffing clothes into trash bags. I stood by the door, unmoving, watching them. When they were done, Diana paused in front of me. "You'll be sorry," she hissed. "You'll be all alone." "I've been alone for 2 years," I said. "I just didn't realize it." I shut the door behind them and slid the deadbolt home. The click echoed in the sudden blissful silence. The first person I called was Lucas. He didn't answer. I left a rambling, tearful voicemail trying to explain. I drove to his apartment, but he wasn't there. I waited on his stoop for 2 hours before giving up. A week later, a mutual friend, her voice full of pity, told me she'd seen him out with his ex-girlfriend. "He looked happy," she said. The news was a punch to the gut. But what did I expect? I had humiliated him. I had believed the worst, most vile things about him without a second thought. My betrayal wasn't something a single voicemail could fix. He needed to heal, and apparently that didn't involve me. Another month passed. I threw myself into my work, the Saks launch, a welcome, all-consuming distraction. The loft was finally mine again. I cleansed it with sage, rearranged the furniture, and slowly, painstakingly began to feel like myself. Then one evening, the buzzer shrieked. I ignored it. It buzzed again. Insistent. I went to the intercom. "Who is it?" "Mabel, it's me." "Diana." Her voice was thin, reedy. All the venom was gone, replaced by a whining desperation. I almost didn't answer. But I had to see this through. I buzzed her up. The woman who stepped out of the elevator was a ghost. Her expensive clothes were rumpled, her hair was greasy, and dark circles bruised the skin under her eyes. Frederick had obviously dumped her the second the money ran out. "What do you want, Diana?" I asked, blocking the doorway. "May, please," she begged, her eyes darting around my apartment at the life she tried to steal. "He kicked me out. I have nowhere to go. I have no money. Can I just stay for a few nights? Until I get on my feet." I looked at her, at the sister who had systematically destroyed my happiness out of pure spite, and I felt nothing. No pity. No anger. Just a vast, empty distance. "No," I said. "Please," she cried, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister when you drugged my fiancé and laughed about it." I went to my purse, took out the $500 in cash I had, and held it out to her. "Here," I said. "This is the last thing you will ever get from me. Use it for a motel, for a bus ticket, I don't care. But we are done. Don't call me. Don't email me. Don't ever come here again." She stared at the money, then at my face, searching for a crack, a weakness she could exploit. She found none. She snatched the cash from my hand, her face contorting with resentment. "You'll regret this," she muttered, turning away. "No, Diana," I said softly as she walked toward the elevator. "You will." I closed the door. I didn't watch her go. A few weeks later, I heard through the grapevine she was working as a hostess at some chain restaurant in Queens. I was alone and my heart was still a patchwork of scars. But for the first time in a long time, my home was my own. And I was finally free. Story 4. I inherited two things from my grandmother: her stubborn streak and her wedding china. The china was a full 12-place setting of Haviland Limoges with delicate hand-painted violets spiraling around the edges. It was absurdly fancy and completely impractical, and I loved it more than almost anything. I loved the weight of it, the history. I loved that her hands had touched these same plates. So I started a tradition. Monthly family dinners. A real sit-down affair, no paper plates allowed. My husband Mark thought it was a great idea. His parents loved it. His sister Jessica, not so much. "It's a little fussy, isn't it?" she said at our first dinner back in January, tapping a perfectly polished fork against a violet. I'd be terrified of breaking it. A month later, she did. It was February. She was helping me clear the table. A slip, a theatrical gasp, and a dinner plate shattered on the hardwood floor. "Oh my God, I am so sorry," she cried, hands flying to her mouth. "I'm so clumsy." Mark rushed over. "It's okay, Jess. It was an accident." He looked at me, a placating smile on his face. "Right, honey. It's just a plate." I stared at the porcelain shards. It wasn't times just times a plate. It was one of 12. Now it was one of 11. But I swallowed my anger, forced a tight smile, and said, "It's fine. Accidents happen." We skipped the family dinner in March because Mark's parents were on a cruise. I was secretly relieved. When April rolled around, I hesitated before pulling the china from its quilted storage cases. "Are you sure we should use it?" I asked Mark. "Maybe we just use the everyday stuff." "Babe, don't be silly. It's what the dinners are for." "Jess feels terrible. Don't make her feel worse by hiding the plates." He was right. I was being silly. That night, Jessica broke too. The first one she knocked off the counter while admiring my new backsplash. The second slid from a soapy stack in the sink when she insisted on helping with the dishes. 2 more shattered plates. 2 more over-the-top, breathless apologies. "I don't know what's wrong with me tonight," she wailed as my mother-in-law patted her back soothingly. Mark pulled me into the pantry. "She's just a klutz, honey. Always has been. Let it go." 2 in one night, Mark. "That's not clumsy, that's what malicious," he laughed. But it wasn't a nice sound. "You think she's doing it on purpose? Why would she do that?" I didn't have an answer. Not one that wouldn't make me sound insane. The May dinner felt like a ticking time bomb. I set the table with 9 dinner plates, my stomach in a knot. I watched Jessica like a hawk all night. I saw her pick up her plate to carry it to the kitchen. Her grip looked loose. Her elbows seemed to jut out, catching the doorframe times, just so asterisk. Crash. Her boyfriend, a perpetually confused-looking guy named Kevin, dropped his plate in the ensuing chaos. Crash. 2 more gone. We were down to 7. "I'm just cursed around this china," Jessica sobbed into Mark's shoulder. This time I didn't say a word. I just swept up the pieces, my movements stiff and angry. After they left, I rounded on Mark. "This is not a coincidence." "Oh, here we go," he sighed, rubbing his temples. "Kevin dropped one too. Is he in on this grand conspiracy?" "He dropped his because she startled him. She did it on purpose, Mark. She hates these plates. For God's sake, stop it, he snapped, his voice sharp enough to cut. They're just plates. You're getting obsessed and you're trying to turn me against my own sister. It's ugly. Just drop it. June. I felt sick all day. I only set 8 places even though there were 9 of us. I gave Jessica one of my plain white crate and barrel plates. She noticed immediately. "Oh, am I in the doghouse?" she asked with a syrupy sweet pout. My mother-in-law clucked her tongue. "Don't be silly, dear." She looked at me. "Is one of the others chipped honey?" I just nodded, my jaw clenched. It didn't matter. After dessert, Jessica was carrying her coffee cup and saucer to the kitchen. Another slip. Another crash. The cup handle snapped clean off and the saucer broke in 2. 4 dinners in a row. 6 plates and 1 cup. When the door finally closed behind them, the silence in the house was deafening. I didn't even look at Mark. I just walked into our bedroom, shut the door, and dialed my mom. The second I heard her voice, I broke. The whole story came tumbling out between sobs, the accidents, the fake apologies, Mark's dismissals, the word paranoid echoing in my head. My mom listened patiently until I was done. There was a pause. "Oh, honey," she said, her voice steely. "You're not crazy. That little monster is doing it on purpose." The validation was like a physical shock. I wasn't being paranoid. I wasn't inventing things. I wasn't the villain for loving my grandmother's legacy. "What do I do, Mom?" I whispered. "He won't believe me." "Then you make him believe you," she said, her tone hardening. "You get proof he can't ignore. You catch the little brat red-handed." A cold, hard resolve settled over me. My mom was right. I was done being the victim. I was done being gaslit in my own home. The next day, I spent an hour on Amazon. I found exactly what I needed: a tiny, powerful spy camera disguised as a USB wall charger. It had motion detection and recorded crystal clear HD video directly to an SD card. I paid for overnight shipping. When it arrived, I plugged it into the outlet in the corner of the dining room, the one right behind the buffet. It had a perfect panoramic view of the entire table and the path to the kitchen. I tested it. The footage was terrifyingly clear. Now it's July, the day of the next dinner. The camera is plugged in, a silent, blinking witness. My hands are shaking just a little as I set the table. I lay out the 7 remaining dinner plates. 7 precious survivors. Each one feels like a landmine. I run my thumb over the painted violets, on one of them a silent promise to my grandmother. Asterisk. Not one more. Asterisk. I take a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I feel a strange mix of dread and vindication. Tonight it ends. Then the doorbell rings. My whole body goes rigid. They're here. I pasted on a smile that felt like cracking plaster and opened the door. "Hi, come on in." Dinner was a tightrope walk over a pit of vipers. I served lasagna, something that required minimal plate-to-kitchen trips. I watched every move Jessica made, my fork clutched so tightly in my hand my knuckles were white. Mark kept shooting me warning glances as if I were the one causing a scene by just existing. After the main course, I stood up. "Carol," I said to my mother-in-law, my voice bright and false. "The night blooming jasmine I told you about. It's finally opened up. The smell is incredible. You have to see it." She lit up. "Oh, I'd love that." "Mark, come with us," I said, not making it a question. I needed him out of the room. He shot me a confused look, but his mother was already heading for the back patio door, so he followed. The moment the door slid shut behind them, my heart hammered against my ribs. I stayed outside just long enough to point at a random bush, then mumbled, "Oh shoot, I forgot to grab my phone. I want to take a picture. Be right back." I didn't go for my phone. I slipped back into the dining room, my feet silent on the rug. Jessica and Kevin were clearing their own plates. "They're all just staring at that stupid bush," I heard Jessica whisper, her voice dripping with venom. I flattened myself against the wall in the hallway, just out of sight, my own phone in my hand, watching the live feed from the camera app. My breath caught in my throat. On the tiny screen, I saw her. She glanced toward the patio door, then back at Kevin, who had his back to her as he scraped his plate into the trash. The coast was clear. Her movements were no longer clumsy or theatrical. They were deliberate. Cold. She held the violet-rimmed Haviland plate in her hands. She didn't drop it. She didn't knock it. She looked right at it. A nasty little smirk playing on her lips, and then she cocked her arm back and threw it hard against the corner of the kitchen island. Asterisk crack. Asterisk. The sound was like a gunshot. Kevin jumped, spinning around. "Jesus, Jess, what happened?" The smirk vanished, replaced instantly by a mask of wide-eyed horror. "Oh my God," she shrieked, her hands flying to her face. It just slipped. I can't believe it. I am so cursed. I saw it all. I had it all." A cold, victorious calm washed over me. I saved the video file, tucked my phone in my pocket, and walked back outside, my smile serene. The next big family gathering was my mother-in-law's birthday in early August. I insisted on hosting. I spent the day cooking her favorite meal, prime rib, roasted potatoes, asparagus with hollandaise. And I set the table. I used the good silver, the crystal water goblets, the linen napkins, and for 6 place settings, I laid out the 6 remaining precious, perfect Haviland Limoges dinner plates. For Jessica's spot, I placed a bright pink plastic princess plate with separate compartments for different foods. Beside it, I set a matching sippy cup with a purple lid. They arrived right on time. Everyone bustled in, wishing Carol a happy birthday. Jessica breezed over to the table to set down her purse and froze. What is this?" she asked, her voice tight. I walked over, feigning innocence. "What's what?" "This," she said, flicking a finger at the princess plate. "This is a joke, right?" My father-in-law looked over, confused. Mark's eyes widened, a storm brewing in them. "Honey, what are you doing?" he hissed under his breath. I ignored him and looked directly at Jessica. My voice was low, calm, and carried across the suddenly silent room. "No joke, Jessica. I've simply decided that if you're going to act like a child in my home, I will treat you like one." Her face went from confused to furious in a split second. "How dare you? I have never been so insulted." Insulted, I cut her off. I pulled my iPad from the buffet where I'd left it. "You want to talk about insults? Let's talk about last month." I tapped the screen. The video started to play. The small screen showed the dining room from its corner perch. It showed Mark and his mom and me walking outside. It showed Jessica's venomous whisper. It showed her glance toward the door. And then in crystal clear high definition, it showed her smirk and the deliberate violent throw. The crack of the plate was sickeningly loud in the quiet room. Jessica's face turned the color of ash. My mother-in-law gasped, her hand flying to her chest. My father-in-law just stared, his mouth hanging open. Kevin looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. And Mark looked at me. Not at the screen, not at his sister. At me. And his face was pure fury. Jessica found her voice first. It came out as a strangled shriek. "You spied on me, you psychotic bitch." She lunged for the iPad, but I held it out of her reach. "Get out," I said. My voice didn't shake. "Get out of my house." She started screaming, then a full-blown tantrum of incoherent rage, calling me every name she could think of. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the front door. So hard a picture frame rattled on the wall. Kevin scurried after her, muttering a panicked, "Sorry, everyone." Silence descended. Finally, my father-in-law cleared his throat. "We are so sorry," he said, looking utterly ashamed. "We had no idea." My mother-in-law was crying softly. "I can't believe it. My own daughter." I just nodded, unable to speak. I felt hollowed out. Vindicated, yes, but exhausted and empty. After they left, Mark turned on me. "Are you happy now?" He seethed, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "You got what you wanted. You humiliated her in front of the entire family." I stared at him, incredulous. She's been systematically destroying something that means the world to me. She lied to our faces for months. "You saw the video, Mark. I saw you set a trap for my sister," he yelled, finally letting his voice rise. "I saw you publicly execute her on her own mother's birthday. It was cruel. It was vicious and calculated and completely out of line. And what she did wasn't. They're just plates," he roared, throwing his hands in the air. "For God's sake, you chose a set of dishes over my sister." He slept on the couch that night. And the next. And the next. For days he treated me like a stranger in our own home, speaking only in monosyllables. The cold shoulder was absolute. He was defending her. The golden child. Even with irrefutable, undeniable proof, he chose his sister. A week later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Kevin. *, Jessica is a wreck. You owe her a massive apology for what you did. *. I didn't type a single word back. I just opened my camera roll, found the video of Jessica smashing the plate, and sent it to him. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Then nothing. He never texted back. The silence from Kevin was satisfying. But the silence from my husband, sitting in the same living room, was a gaping wound. The broken china was just a symptom. The disease was the rift between us, a crack running so deep I was afraid if I looked too closely, I'd see it had shattered our marriage completely. And unlike my grandmother's plates, I had no idea if that was something that could ever be glued back together. Story 5. The phone buzzed on my desk, a low, angry vibration against the polished wood. I glanced at the screen. A single text from Chloe. * he knows. Mark knows everything. *. My blood went cold. Not a slow chill, but an instant icy shock. Like being dropped into a frozen lake. I snatched the phone, my thumb hovering over her name. My office, with its view of the city and the stupid motivational poster about synergy, suddenly felt like a cage. My tie felt like a noose. For 6 years, it was a clean, separate box. That was the rule. My life was with Sarah, my wife. The 90%, she was the mortgage, the PTA meetings, the Saturday morning trips to the farmer's market, the inside jokes nobody else got. She was the warm weight next to me in bed, the mother of my 2 kids, the anchor of my entire world. I loved her. That was never the question. Chloe was the other 10%. The box. She was the dark bars, with no names, the anonymous hotel rooms, the things I wanted that Sarah didn't. The kinks, the specific dirty little appetites that didn't fit into our clean suburban life. It was just a release valve. A biological need compartmentalized and controlled. It meant nothing more than that. I told myself that so many times it felt like gospel. Now Mark knew. And the box was about to explode all over the 90%. I drove home on autopilot, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Every red light was an eternity. Every passing car held a potential threat. Was that him? Did he follow me? My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic trapped bird. When I walked through the door, the smell of roasting chicken hit me. My 7-year-old daughter, Maya, ran at me, wrapping her arms around my leg. Daddy, we made cookies. Sarah was at the stove, a little flour smudged on her cheek. She smiled at me, that easy, familiar smile that always made my shoulders drop an inch. Hey you. Rough day. The usual, I managed to say, my voice sounding hollow in my own ears. I watched her move around the kitchen, her hair tied up in a messy bun. I watched my son Ben meticulously setting the table, arguing with his sister about who got the blue cup. This was it. The calm before the storm. This perfect, fragile little world I had built, and the wrecking ball was already swinging. A wave of love so fierce and protective it almost buckled my knees, washed over me. I would do anything to keep this. Anything. Later that night, I met my older brother Leo at a dive bar downtown. He already knew the situation. I'd sent him a frantic one-line text. He slid a whiskey toward me without a word. So the apocalypse is nigh, he said, taking a long drink of his beer. He's going to tell her, Leo. I know it. 6 years. She's never going to forgive me. Leo swirled the ice in his glass. He'd been through a messy divorce himself. He was my designated expert on marital implosion. Okay. First things first. Get your story straight. What was she to you? Nothing. I said, maybe too quickly. You know what it was? An outlet. It wasn't emotional. Good. That's your mantra, he said, pointing a finger at me. It meant nothing. You were in a bad place, you made a stupid mistake, and it was purely physical. You were weak, not evil. Got it. I nodded, grabbing onto the words like a life raft. Weak, not evil. When she confronts you, and she will, you don't confess. You react. She'll have evidence, text, whatever. Don't try to deny the act, just deny the meaning. You cry. You tell her she's the only one you've ever loved. You tell her this other woman was a symptom of your own insecurity, a disgusting mistake that has nothing to do with her or your marriage. You beg. You grovel. You book a therapist before the conversation is even over. What if she just leaves, the words caught in my throat? Leo sighed, finishing his beer. Then she leaves. But most people don't want to blow up their lives, Henry. They want a reason to stay. You just have to give her a good one. The next few days were a special kind of hell. Every time my phone buzzed, I'd nearly jump out of my skin. I watched Sarah, looking for any sign, a flicker of coldness in her eyes, a clipped tone in her voice. But there was nothing. She was the same as always. Warm, funny, busy with the kids. We had sex and I held on to her afterward like a man about to be cast out into the wilderness, memorizing the feel of her skin against mine. A week went by. Then two. Silence. I texted Chloe. Asterisk. Anything asterisk. A few hours later she replied. Asterisk, he hasn't said a word. To me or anyone. I think he's just going to let it go. Maybe he's too embarrassed. Asterisk. The relief was so profound it was physical. I felt my muscles unclench for the first time in 14 days. The wrecking ball had stopped swinging. I dodged it. Mark had his own pride to worry about. Maybe blowing up my life wasn't worth blowing up his own. Leo was right. People don't want to blow up their lives. The false security felt incredible. I started sleeping through the night again. I laughed at dinner. I felt like I'd been given a second chance, a divine pardon. I promised myself, I swore on my children's lives that I was done. I would be the husband Sarah deserved. The 90% was now 100%. The box was sealed, buried, and forgotten. I was sitting in my car in the office parking garage about to head home. I felt good. Light. I was scrolling through pictures of Maya's soccer game from the weekend when my phone buzzed. It was Chloe. Asterisk Henry. I am so sorry. I didn't know. Asterisk. My stomach tightened. Sorry for what, did Mark change his mind? Before I could type a reply, a second message came through. It was a picture. My brow furrowed as I tapped to open it. It was a photo taken from across a street looking into the window of a dimly lit cafe. A man and a woman were sitting at a small table, leaning in close. The woman was laughing, her head tilted back. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun. She had a tiny smudge of what looked like chocolate on her cheek. It was Sarah. My Sarah. The man across from her wasn't me. He was reaching across the table, his hand covering hers. The look on his face wasn't friendly. It was intimate. It was the way I used to look at her years ago. The world tilted. The air in the car vanished. A roaring sound filled my ears, the sound of my own blood pounding. This wasn't possible. Not Sarah. She was the 90%. She was the anchor. She was the one thing in my life that was pure and true. My hand started to shake, the phone rattling against the steering wheel. I couldn't breathe. I felt a hot acidic bile rise in my throat. This had to be a mistake. A misunderstanding. A friend from work. It had to be. Just then, my phone buzzed again. A new text, this one from Sarah. Asterisk, hey babe. Just leaving the grocery store now. Be home in 10. Want me to pick up some of that red wine you like? Asterisk. The lie. The goddamn lie. Asterisk. Just leaving the grocery store. Asterisk. My vision tunneled. The picture was a brand on my retinas. But the text was the twist of the knife. She was lying. To me. Easily, casually, without a second thought. I drove like a maniac, blasting through yellow lights. My hands shaking so badly I could barely keep them on the wheel. The 10-minute drive felt like an hour. When I burst through the door, my heart was a trip hammer in my chest. And there she was. Unloading groceries. Milk, eggs, a carton of orange juice, she was humming. Hey, you beat me, she said, smiling that same smile from before. That warm, familiar, lying smile. Traffic was a nightmare. The sheer breathtaking audacity of it stole my voice. I just stared at her, at the bag of apples on the counter, at the whole perfect fraudulent scene. Maya and Ben were in the living room, the sounds of some cartoon echoing down the hall. Henry, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I couldn't do it. Not in front of them. I swallowed the acid in my throat and knotted my body, a single rigid knot of fury. Fine. Long day. We ate dinner in a state of suspended animation. I moved my food around my plate, the roasted chicken from the other night now tasting like ash. Every time she spoke, asking the kids about school, laughing at a joke Ben made, I felt a fresh wave of nausea. How long? How long had this been going on? Was anything real? Later, after the kids were in bed, after the house fell into its usual quiet rhythm, I found her in the living room reading on the couch. The trap was set. My whole body was buzzing. I didn't say a word. I just walked over and dropped my phone onto the cushion next to her, the picture of her and him glowing on the screen. She didn't flinch. She picked it up, looked at it for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she set it down and met my eyes. Her own were calm. Too calm. Who is he, Sarah? I asked, my voice a low, shaking growl. The victim. I was the victim here. My rage felt righteous. Who the hell is he? His name is David, she said, her voice even. No tears, no panic. Just a statement of fact. The lack of drama was infuriating. I wanted her to crumble. I needed her to. David. How long? How could you do this? To me, to our family. After everything we have. The words from Leo's playbook came out automatically, a script for a different, more predictable tragedy. She looked at me, a flicker of something, pity maybe, in her eyes. Henry, stop. Stop. You want me to stop? I was pacing, now a caged animal. You're cheating on me, Sarah. You're throwing our whole life away for some. David. Yes, I am, she said, still perfectly composed. She stood up, crossing her arms. She didn't look guilty. She looked tired. And you've been cheating on me with Chloe. The name hit me like a physical blow. It knocked the wind out of my lungs, the rage out of my veins, replaced instantly by a freezing, bottomless dread. My mouth went dry. My carefully constructed world didn't just crack. It atomized. What the word was, a pathetic squeak. I know about Chloe, she repeated, her voice softening, which was somehow worse. I have for some time now. About 4 years, give or take. 4 years. Not a recent discovery. A long-held secret truth. While I was sneaking around building my little box for the 10% she knew. While I was panicking about Mark, she knew. While I was holding her at night, feeling relieved and sanctimonious, she knew. The entire narrative of my life was a fiction, I told myself. My legs gave out and I sank onto the arm of the chair. The room was spinning. She kept going, each word a precisely placed nail in my coffin. At first, I was devastated. But then I realized, you hadn't been present in this marriage for a long time. You were here, but you weren't times here, asterisk. You just needed the 90% right, the stable home life. The window dressing. My own pathetic justification. She was throwing my own bullshit back in my face. "David," she said, and her voice changed. It warmed. "He sees all of me. He loves all of me. Not just the convenient parts." She took a deep breath, the only sign of emotion I'd seen from her all night. "I love him, Henry. And I want a divorce." There it was. The end of the world delivered not with a bang, but with a quiet, unshakable certainty. There was no begging to be done. No groveling. Leo's advice was a joke. I had no power here. I was never the one in control. The days that followed were a blur of antiseptic logistics and profound silence. Sarah transformed. The warm, familiar woman I knew was gone, replaced by an efficient, emotionally detached stranger who shared my address. She spoke about lawyers and custody schedules with the same tone she used to use for grocery lists. She was already gone. I'd just been too arrogant to notice. I moved into the guest room. I didn't sleep. I'd lie awake all night staring at the ceiling, my heart racing, replaying that conversation over and over. A weight settled deep in my chest, a permanent crushing anxiety I couldn't shake. I'd wake up gasping for air, convinced I was having a heart attack. After a week of this, I went to a doctor who gave me a prescription for clonazepam. The little white pills were the only things that could quiet the roaring in my head, dulling the world into a manageable gray fog. I called Leo, desperate for something, sympathy, advice, anything. She knew the whole time, Leo. 4 years. She played me. She let me believe I was getting away with it while she was building a whole new life. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Played you," he finally said, his voice flat. "Henry, she lived with it. For 4 years. She swallowed the betrayal every single day while you were off getting your 10%. What did you expect, a thank you card?" His words were cold, hard stones. There was no comfort there. A month later, it was official. We told a few close friends through a stilted joint email about our amicable decision to separate. The next day, a mutual friend, Jessica, posted a vague supportive message on her Facebook page about how sad she was for us, how hard this must be on everyone. I couldn't help myself. I scrolled through the comments, hungry for some kind of validation. Asterisk, so sorry to hear, sending love to you both. Asterisk. Asterisk. Thinking of you. Sarah, you're one of the strongest people I know. Asterisk. Then I saw one from a woman I vaguely knew from a PTA committee. Asterisk, strong is right. Some of us knew what she was putting up with. He's getting exactly what he gave. Poetic justice, if you ask me. Asterisk. Another person replied beneath it. Asterisk. Couldn't agree more. You can't set a fire in your neighbor's house and be surprised when the embers burn yours down too. Asterisk. I dropped the phone on the bed. My face was hot with shame. They knew. Or they'd guessed. It didn't matter. They weren't seeing a heartbroken husband. They were seeing a hypocrite. A punchline. A man who was finally feeling the exact same pain he'd inflicted without a second thought for 6 years. The box I'd built wasn't just for my affair. I had put my wife in a box too. And she had simply quietly found the strength to climb out and walk away. Story 6. My wife Kara and I were happy. Or at least I thought we were. We had a nice house, decent jobs, and 5 years of marriage that felt stable. The first crack in that foundation appeared the day my nephew Julian called with good news. "Uncle Henry, I got it," he said, his voice buzzing with excitement. "I got the junior copywriter position at Sterling Price." "That's fantastic, kid. Sterling Price. Isn't that?" "Yeah. It's Aunt Kara's agency." I grinned, picturing them carpooling. "She's going to be thrilled. Hold on, I'll put you on speaker." I tapped the phone and called out, "Kara, honey, Julian has some news." Kara walked into the living room, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She smiled when she saw Julian's name on the screen. "Hey, sweetie. What's up?" "I got the job," Julian announced. "At your agency. Maybe we can grab lunch sometime." Kara's smile vanished. It didn't just fade. It was like a switch had been flipped off. The warmth in her eyes turned to ice. "You what?" "I got the job," he repeated, his enthusiasm deflating. "The junior copywriter gig." "You shouldn't take it," she said flatly. Julian was silent for a beat. So was I. "What? Why?" he finally asked. "The boss, Mark. He's a nightmare," Kara said, her voice tight. "A completely toxic personality. You don't want to work for him. Trust me." I frowned. "Honey, you've never mentioned your boss was toxic. In 5 years, not once. I thought you liked your job." "You don't know him like I do," she snapped, her eyes fixed on me, not the phone. "I'm just trying to protect my nephew. He should look for something else." "But Aunt Kara, the offer is really good," Julian stammered. "It's a huge step for my career." "Find another step," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "This isn't the one. I have to go." She turned and walked out of the room before Julian could even say goodbye. I picked up the phone. "Sorry about that, kid. I don't know what's gotten into her." We talked for a few more minutes, and I told him to do what was best for his career. He ended up taking the job. When I told Kara, she didn't yell. She didn't scream. She did something much worse. She went silent. A deep Arctic cold descended upon our house. For the next 3 months, she treated me like a ghost. She'd answer direct questions with one-word answers. She slept with her back to me, right on the edge of the bed. No more movie nights, no more casual conversations about our day. No more laughter. If I entered a room, she would find a reason to leave. It was a suffocating, lonely existence. And I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that it had nothing to do with Julian and everything to do with her boss. She wasn't protecting Julian. She was hiding something. The breaking point came on Julian's 24th birthday. We met him for a drink, just the two of us. Kara had claimed she had a late meeting she couldn't get out of. After the usual pleasantries, Julian shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Uncle Henry," he started, his eyes darting around the bar. "I don't want to cause any trouble, but things at the office are weird." Weird how I asked, though I had a sick feeling I already knew the answer. "With Aunt Kara," he said, lowering his voice. "And her boss, Mark. People talk." I leaned forward. "What do they say, Julian?" "They're just really close," he said, struggling for the right words. "They take these long lunches, like 2 or 3 hours long, almost every day. They leave the office together a lot too. Early. And it's not like they're going to client meetings. Last week, someone in accounting saw them getting into his car, and he had his hand on her back. It's not professional. It's the kind of thing people notice." Every word was a punch to the gut. It confirmed the ugly suspicion that had been festering for months. Thanks for telling me, Julian. I appreciate you being honest. When I got home that night, Kara was on the couch scrolling through her phone as if nothing was wrong. The fake normality was more infuriating than the silence. How was your late meeting? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Fine. Long, she said, not looking up. I saw Julian for his birthday. I said. He told me about the office gossip. Her head snapped up. Her eyes narrowed. What gossip? About you and Mark. The long lunches. Leaving early together. His hand on your back. Her face twisted into a sneer. But I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. Are you serious? You're listening to gossip from a kid. A kid who I specifically told not to work there. He's not a kid, Kara, he's a man. And he's my nephew. He's a nosy, conservative little brat who needs to learn to mind his own damn business, she spat. He's probably just jealous of my position at the company and trying to stir up trouble. The excuse was so pathetic. So transparent it was almost comical. She didn't deny it. She didn't explain it. She just attacked Julian. The last shred of my denial evaporated. My wife was cheating on me, and she couldn't even come up with a believable lie. My trust in her shattered into a million pieces right there in our living room. That's not an answer, I said, my voice shaking with a rage I didn't know I had. That's a pathetic deflection. She stood up, her face a mask of fury. I don't have to answer to you or to him. This is my career. You have no idea what it takes. She stormed out of the room and slammed the bedroom door. I stood there for a long time, the silence of the house pressing in on me. The woman I married was gone. In her place was a stranger, a liar. And I knew I couldn't live with her anymore. But suspicion wasn't enough. The gossip wasn't enough. I needed to be certain. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I pulled out my phone and dialed Julian's number. He answered on the first ring. Uncle Henry, is everything okay? My voice was a low whisper. I need you to do something for me. I need proof, Julian. Hard proof. Can you get it for me? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then a hesitant Uncle Henry. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I said, my voice cold and hard. I need to know. A week passed in that same icy silence. Kara was acting smug as if our argument had proven her point and I was the one being unreasonable. Then one evening she came home in a rage. She threw her purse on the counter so hard the contents spilled out. You need to talk to your nephew, she seethed, her hands on her hips. Oh, what about, I asked, not looking up from the book I was pretending to read. He's watching me at work. He's stalking me. I saw him today looking at me from down the hall. It's creepy and unprofessional, and you need to tell him to stop. So, he was getting close. Maybe he just wants to ask his aunt for career advice, I said, dryly. This isn't a joke, Henry. I'm going to file a complaint with HR if he doesn't back off. She turned and stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Julian. Asterisk. Check your email. I'm sorry. Asterisk. My heart hammered against my ribs. I walked into my home office and closed the door, my hands shaking as I opened my laptop. The email had 3 video files attached. I clicked the first one. It was grainy black and white footage from an elevator security camera, timestamped from the previous afternoon. Kara and Mark. They were alone. He leaned and whispered something in her ear, and she laughed, tilting her head back. Then he pressed her against the wall of the elevator, his hands sliding down her back, and kissed her. It wasn't a peck. It was a deep, lingering kiss that she returned, her own hands clutching his jacket. My stomach churned. I clicked the next video. A stairwell. Him pushing her hair back from her face. Her leaning into his touch. The third video was from the parking garage, them getting into his car. He had his hand on the back of her neck, his thumb stroking her skin. It was undeniable. It was methodical. It was a routine. I sat there for what felt like an hour, staring at a blank screen. The fury I'd felt before was gone, replaced by a hollow, sickening calm. I downloaded the files to a flash drive and put it in my pocket. That night, I waited until she was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, wrapped in that infuriating bubble of fake domestic bliss. I walked over to the TV and plugged the flash drive into the USB port. "What are you doing?" she asked, annoyed at the interruption. I didn't answer. I just navigated to the first video file and pressed play. The grainy image of the elevator filled the 6.5-inch screen. She stared at it, her brow furrowed in confusion. Then she saw herself. She saw Mark. Her face went pale. As he leaned in to kiss her, she shot to her feet. "What is this?" "Turn it off," she shrieked. I pressed play on the second video. The stairwell. Her hand on his chest. "Henry, turn it off right now." "Where did you get this?" "Was this Julian?" "I'm going to have him fired. I'm going to sue him." I let it play, then started the third. The parking garage. His hand on her neck. Finally, I hit pause and turned to face her. Her face was a mask of panic and fury. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered, her voice trembling. "Then what is it, Kara?" I asked, my own voice unnervingly steady. "What does it look like to you?" "Because to me it looks like my wife is cheating on me with her boss." Her expression shifted. The panic subsided, replaced by a hard, defensive glare. She took a deep breath, as if steeling herself. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. The expectations. It's a competitive industry." I just stared at her, waiting. "I need to keep my boss happy," she said, her voice dropping, as if she were explaining a simple business transaction. "It's just for work." The sheer transactional coldness of that statement hit me harder than the videos. There was no remorse, no shame, no apology. Just a grotesque justification. She wasn't a victim. She was a willing participant who had calculated the cost and decided her ambition was worth more than our marriage. For work, I repeated the words, tasting like ash in my mouth. "That's your excuse." "It's what I have to do for my career," she insisted, her voice rising again. "A career you've always benefited from." I let out a short, bitter laugh. I didn't say another word. I just turned around, walked into our bedroom, and pulled a duffel bag from the top of the closet. I started throwing clothes into it. T-shirts, jeans, socks. She followed me to the doorway. "What are you doing, Henry?" "Don't be so dramatic. We can talk about this." "No, we can't," I said, zipping the bag closed. "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice." I walked past her, grabbing my keys and wallet from the bowl by the door. "So that's it," she screamed after me. 5 years and you're just going to walk out?" I paused at the door and looked back at her, the stranger standing in the ruins of our home. You walked out a long time ago, Kara. I'm just catching up. I closed the door behind me and never looked back. I spent the next 2 weeks in a haze, staying in a sterile extended stay hotel that smelled of bleach and regret. The first thing I did was hire a lawyer and file for divorce. The silence from Kara was deafening. I expected angry text voicemail something. I got nothing. Then one Tuesday morning my phone rang. It was her father. Henry, he barked without any greeting. What the hell is going on? Kara is a wreck. How could you just walk out on her? You throw away 5 years of marriage over a little argument. I could hear Kara crying theatrically in the background. She'd spun her story well. I was the villain, the one who abandoned his poor devoted wife. Frank, I said, my voice tired. You have no idea what you're talking about. I know my daughter, and I know she's been a good wife to you. You owe her an apology. You need to come home and fix this mess you made. I was done. Done with the lies, the manipulation, the gaslighting. You know what, Frank? You're right. I'll clear things up. I hung up on him. I opened my email, attached the 3 video files, and typed his email address in the recipient line. For the subject, I wrote Times. Here's why I left. Asterisk, I hit send. I waited. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. It was Frank. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave a message. He didn't call again. A week later, I was served with Kara's response to my divorce filing. She was contesting it. She denied any wrongdoing and was demanding half of everything plus significant monthly alimony. Her justification was that her career-focused sacrifices had contributed to my own success, and she deserved to be compensated. The betrayal felt fresh all over again. There was no shame, only entitlement. I sank into a deep depression, the weight of it all crushing me. But looking at those legal papers, something else surfaced through the fog: resolve. She wasn't going to break me. I had the truth on my side. The fight would be ugly, but I would get through it. I had to. For Julian, who had risked his job to help me, and for myself, because the man who walked out that door deserved a life that wasn't built on a lie. Story 7. My name is Barbara, but you could call me Ben's sister. And everyone in my house would know who you were talking about. My actual name is just a placeholder, a word my parents use when they need a free babysitter. It's always been this way. My brother Ben is autistic. Not the quirky genius kind you see in movies. The screaming, hitting, can't handle a wrinkle in his sock kind. And my entire life has been shrink-wrapped around his needs, his schedule, his meltdowns. My 5th grade choir concert, Mom missed it because Ben refused to wear anything but his Batman pajamas, and she had to wrestle him for an hour. I remember standing on the risers, a stupid red bow, and my hair scanning the crowd for her face. Instead, I found Mrs. Davis and my best friend Rachel's mom, who gave me a huge thumbs up and mouthed, "You were amazing." She had a bouquet of carnations for me afterward. My mom handed me a cold slice of pizza when I got home and said, "Ben, finally calm down." When I made the varsity soccer team as a freshman, Dad was out of town for work. Mom was supposed to take me to the first practice. I waited by the door, cleats tied, shin guards digging into my calves for 45 minutes. Finally, I called Rachel, choking back tears. Mrs. Davison picked me up 10 minutes later, no questions asked. She was at every single one of my home games that season, screaming my name from the bleachers. My own mother never saw me play. Not once. The worst was Disneyland. I was 10. It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. I'd saved up my allowance for a year to buy my own set of sparkly mouse ears. We were there for maybe 4 hours before the sensory overload sent Ben into a full-blown thrashing on the asphalt tantrum because Goofy's wave was too big. So we went back to the hotel. Dad took Ben into their room to try and de-escalate, which left me with Mom and ours. "You'll just have to stay here with me, Barb," she said, not even looking at me, as she drew the blackout curtains. "We can't risk setting him off again." For 3 days I was a prisoner in the Grand Californian. I could hear the fireworks. I could smell the churros. I watched other kids running down the hallway in their swimsuits, laughing on their way to the pool. I just sat on the scratchy hotel bedspread, staring at the paisley pattern until it blurred while Mom watched daytime TV and fielded frantic calls from Dad. The mouse ears I bought sat on the nightstand, their sequins mocking me. We drove home without ever going back to the park. Mom called it a necessary sacrifice. I called it hell. So when Rachel came to school 2 weeks ago vibrating with excitement, I was prepared for the usual letdown. "My parents are taking us to Disney World for spring break," she announced, "and they want to know if you can come. All expenses paid. Our treat." My stomach did a sick little flip. Disney. The word alone tasted like hotel carpet and regret. "No way, Rach. My parents would never." "Just ask," she insisted. "My mom already has the ticket confirmation. It's a 5-day park hopper. She said she refuses to let your only Disney memory be that nightmare trip." For once, a celestial body aligned in my favor. Mom was at one of Ben's specialist appointments, and Dad was working from home. I found him in his office staring at a spreadsheet, and the words just tumbled out. I told him about the offer from the Davisons, bracing for the inevitable "we'll see," or "what about Ben?" He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. He looked tired. He always looked tired. "The Davisons are good people," he said quietly. "Yeah, Barb. You should go. You deserve a real vacation." He signed the school permission slip on the spot. It was done. It was real. For 2 weeks I lived on a cloud. Rachel and I planned our park days down to the minute. I packed and repacked my suitcase. I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in years: hope. Mrs. Davison was my real mom. Rachel my real sister. This was my real family, and I was finally getting a do-over. Tonight I was laying out my outfits on my bed, a Disney World map spread open like a sacred text. I had my new mouse ears, a sleek black pair, not the sparkly pink ones from my childhood, sitting on my pillow. The door was cracked open, and I could hear the low hum of the TV downstairs where Dad was watching the game. That's when I heard the soft padding of footsteps in the hall. My bedroom door creaked open. It was Ben. He was holding his worn-out iPad, the one he used for his communication apps. He hardly ever came into my room. It was my one sanctuary, the only space in the house that wasn't calibrated to his sensory needs. He pointed a shaky finger at the map on my bed. His eyes, wide and unblinking, darted from the illustration of Cinderella's castle to my face. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The app on his iPad did it for him, its robotic female voice slicing through the quiet room. "Go to Disney." My blood ran cold. I'd been so careful. I'd hidden the brochures, talked to Rachel in whispers on the phone. How did he find out? Ben's face began to crumple. The first sound escaped his lips, a low guttural whine that was the prelude to every storm. He pointed at the map again, then at himself. Ben, go to Disney. The robotic voice was more insistent now. No, Ben, I said, my own voice barely a whisper. This is my trip. With Rachel. That was the wrong thing to say. The whine escalated into a piercing shriek. He dropped the iPad, the plastic clattering against the hardwood floor. His hands flew to his ears, and he started rocking back and forth, the shrieks turning into rhythmic choked sobs. No. No, Ben, go to Disney. Ben, go. The TV downstairs abruptly went silent. I heard the scrape of a chair, then heavy, urgent footsteps on the stairs. My door flew open so hard it banged against the wall. It was my mother. Her face was a thundercloud, her eyes skipping right over Ben's thrashing form on my floor and landing on me with the force of a physical blow. She didn't have to say a word. I saw it all in that one look, the blame, the fury, the years of resentment bubbling to the surface. The dream was over. The war was about to begin. What did you do? The words were ice. She didn't kneel to comfort Ben, who was now pulling at his own hair and slamming the back of his head against my dresser with a sickening rhythm. She just stood in the doorway, a sentinel of my guilt. Nothing. He came in here. He saw the map. You flaunted it in his face, she hissed, finally moving. But only to step between me and Ben, shielding him from my sight, as if I were the monster. You knew this would happen. You were selfish. I was in my own room. I shot back, my voice cracking. Downstairs, I heard my dad's heavy sigh and the click of the TV turning off for good. He was coming. This is everyone's house, Barbara, Mom said, her voice dangerously low as she tried to pry Ben's hands from his hair. You don't get your own private world. Not when your brother needs. She trailed off, wrestling with him. He let out another shriek and tried to bite her arm. Needs what I demanded, my hands clenched into fists. Needs my entire life. Needs my vacation. That's it, she snapped her head, whipping around to face me, her eyes blazing. The trip is off. You are not going to Florida. The floor fell out from under me. What Dad already said I could go. He signed the form. Well, I'm unsigning it. She yelled, her voice finally matching the volume of Ben's wails. We're going on a family trip. All of us. We'll drive to Washington, D.C. We'll see the monuments. A 14-hour car ride with Ben. Stuck in a metal box. Endless loops of his favorite 5 songs on the stereo. The smell of fast food. Backs. Stopping at every other rest stop. Because the hum of the tires was too loud or too quiet. It was Disneyland all over again. But worse. It was a punishment. I'm not going. I said the words, feeling alien and powerful in my mouth. Oh, you're going, she said, a cruel little smile touching her lips. Because this family does things together. This family does things for Ben, I screamed, the last thread of my control snapping. My entire life is one long sacrifice for him, and I'm done. He can't help it, she screamed back. He's your brother. He's younger than you, and he has autism. His feelings are more important right now. There it was. The truth I had swallowed my entire life finally said out loud. Not a sacrifice, but a hierarchy. And I was at the bottom. Something inside me didn't just break. It detonated. I don't care the shriek ripped out of my throat raw and full of a hate that scared even me. Ben flinched, his own cries momentarily silenced by the sheer venom in my voice. Mom stared, her mouth agape. I don't care about his feelings. I don't care that he has autism. What about me? What about my feelings for once in my goddamn life? I hate this house. I hate you. And I wish he was never born. The final words hung in the air, thick and poisonous. I said them right to Ben's face. His wide, terrified eyes locked on mine. The tantrum rebooted, but this time it was different. It was a sound of pure terror, a howling, animalistic grief that echoed off the walls. He scrambled away from me, crab walking backward until he hit the hallway, where he curled into a ball, shrieking my words back at me in a garbled, frantic mimic. Never born. Never born. See what you did? My mother's voice was a whisper of pure loathing. She advanced on me, her finger pointing at my face. You are a rude, ungrateful, monstrous brat. I hear a girl who's at her breaking point. My dad was standing behind her in the doorway, his face grim. He looked ancient. Stay out of this, Mark, my mother warned, not turning around. No, he said, his voice quiet but absolute. I won't. He stepped into the room, his eyes finding mine. There wasn't anger in them. There was a deep, soul-crushing sadness, and something else I'd never seen before, understanding. What you said was a terrible thing, Barb. You can't ever take that back. I flinched, tears finally spilling down my cheeks. But I know why you said it, he continued, his gaze shifting to my mother. I grew up with 2 brothers on the spectrum, Helen. Remember I told you about it? I spent my entire childhood walking on eggshells, making myself smaller so they could be comfortable. My parents called it keeping the peace. It wasn't peace. It was erasure. My mother was silent, rigid. He looked back at me. Your mother is right. This family does things for Ben. It has to a point. But it's been too much for too long. We let it happen. I let it happen. He took a deep breath. You're going to Disney World. The discussion is over. Mark, you can't be serious, Mom whirled on him. After what she just said to her brother. Because of what she just said, he corrected her, his voice firm. Because we pushed her to a place where she would say something that cruel. That's on us. She's going. He walked out, leaving my mother standing there. Her face a mask of disbelief and fury. She looked from me to the sobbing heap of her son in the hall, and without another word she turned and followed him, slamming our parents' bedroom door so hard a picture fell off my wall. The house fell into a war zone's tense silence, punctuated only by Ben's muffled sobs from downstairs and the furious low murmur of my parents' argument through the wall. I sank onto my bed, my body trembling. The guilt was a physical weight in my chest, a hot stone of shame for the words I'd flung at my brother. I'd meant them in that white-hot second. And that was the most horrible part. But underneath the guilt, a strange, unfamiliar feeling bloomed. Relief. Hot, clean, and sharp. My dad's words times. It was erasure times played over and over in my head. He saw me. After all these years of feeling invisible, he had finally truly seen me. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a text from Mrs. Davison. Asterisk. Everything okay for Friday? Rach is about to explode with excitement. We're packed and ready to pick you up, asterisk. I stared at the text then, at my half-packed suitcase, my sleek black mouse ears sitting on top like a crown. My mother's silent fury radiated through the floorboards. Ben's whimpering was a constant, painful reminder of the bomb I'd just detonated. The fracture in my relationship with my mother felt like a chasm deep and likely permanent. But my dad's words had built a bridge over it. I picked up the phone, my thumbs moving with a newfound certainty. Asterisk, see you Friday. I can't wait. Asterisk. I was going. I was leaving the war zone behind. I was going to Disney World with my real family, and for the first time, my own happiness felt less like a selfish dream and more like a necessary sacrifice. My own. Story 8. The saltwater taffy was sticking to my daughter Lily's teeth, and she was making a whole production of it, her 9-year-old face scrunched in a perfect pantomime of agony and delight. We were on the boardwalk in Ocean City 2 days into our annual mother-daughter trip, and my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was my husband, Mark. Hey, how are my girls? He asked, his voice sounding stretched thin. We're good. Lily's trying to glue her jaw shut with candy. How's Ellie holding up without us? A pause. It was just long enough for the seagulls' cries to sound like alarms. Judy. Something's happened. My stomach went cold. Ellie was 13. A sweet arthritic golden retriever who was more shadow than dog. What is it? Is she okay? She's gone, he said, his voice cracking on the last word. I let her out in the backyard. I turned my back for a minute to take a work call. And when I went to let her back in, the gate was open. I've been looking for hours. I've driven all over. She's just gone. I sank onto a bench, the world tilting. Lily stopped her taffy pulling and looked at me, her eyes wide. What's wrong, Mommy? I put my arm around her. Mark, are you sure? Did you check Mrs. Henderson's yard? You know she loves to sneak over there for treats. I checked everywhere. Judy. Everywhere. I'm so sorry. He sounded devastated. He sounded like a husband who had lost the family dog. But something felt wrong. A little piece of grit in the mechanism. When he'd started working from home a year ago, his patience for Ellie had evaporated. He complained about her shedding the click-clack of her nails on the hardwood the way she'd lie in the doorway of his home office. It's like she's mocking my productivity, he'd grumbled more than once. His affection had curdled into a kind of low-grade constant annoyance, a jealousy I couldn't quite wrap my head around. He was jealous of a dog. We cut the trip short and drove the 3 hours home in near silence, Lily crying softly in the backseat. I tried to believe his story. A gust of wind, a faulty latch. An old dog getting confused. It could happen. But when we pulled into the driveway, Mark was on the front porch nursing a beer. He looked calm. Too calm. He hugged me, patted Lily's back, but his eyes were dry. There was no sign of the frantic man I'd spoken to on the phone. The house felt hollowed out. Ellie's water bowl was gone. Her bed in the corner of the living room had been put away. It was like he hadn't just lost her. He'd erased her. I already put her things in the attic, he said, reading my mind. Figured it would be too hard for you and Lily to see them. He thought he was being considerate, but it felt like a desecration. We spent the next 2 days in a fog of grief. Lily and I made missing posters with Ellie's best photo, the one where she has a goofy tongue-out grin. We taped them to telephone poles. Mark helped, but his movements were mechanical. He offered comforting words that landed like stones. She was old, babe. She had a great life. He wasn't grieving with us. He was managing our grief. For days after we got home, the landline rang. We never used the landline. It's basically a telemarketer hotline we keep for emergencies. It was also the number linked to Ellie's microchip. My heart hammered against my ribs as I snatched the receiver. Hello. Hi, is this the owner of a dog named Ellie? A kind professional voice asked. Tears sprang to my eyes. Hope fierce and blinding surged through me. Yes. Oh my God, yes. Is she okay? Where is she? She's a little dehydrated and tired, but otherwise she's fine. My name is Susan. I'm with the Good Shepherd Animal Rescue. Mark walked into the kitchen, his brow furrowed. I mouthed Times. They found her Times and his face went slack. Not with relief. With something else. Something I couldn't name. That's wonderful. Where are you located? I asked Susan, grabbing a pin. We're in Kearney, Nebraska. The pin fell from my fingers. I'm sorry, I must have misheard you. Did you say Nebraska? Yes, ma'am. A truck driver found her wandering near an interstate rest stop and brought her in this morning. Nebraska. We live in Pennsylvania. That's 1,000 miles away. It made no sense. How? How is that possible? We were wondering the same thing, Susan said gently. But the microchip is a match. After I hung up my mind reeling, I turned to Mark. His face was a closed door. What is it? I asked, my voice trembling. Nebraska, he scoffed, shaking his head. That's impossible. It has to be a mistake. It's not a mistake, Mark. They scanned her chip. It's her. He ran a hand over his face, and for the first time he looked agitated. He started pacing. Okay, I know what happened. Someone must have stolen her. Snatched her right out of the yard. They probably drove her out there and dumped her when they realized how old she was. Sick bastards. His explanation was a flimsy fishing net full of holes. Who steals a 1-3-year-old arthritic golden retriever and drives her halfway across the country just to abandon her? The story he was spinning was more unbelievable than Ellie learning to teleport. My gut, that primal instinct I'd been silencing for days, was screaming at me now. Asterisk, he's lying. He's lying. He's lying. Asterisk. That evening, Mark went out to play poker with his friends. He was gone for the night. I watched his headlights disappear down the street. My heart a cold, heavy lump in my chest. I knew what I had to do. It felt insane. It felt like a violation. But I couldn't shake the image of his calm, placid face when we'd arrived home to an empty house. His new car had one of those dash cams that records everything. He was so proud of it. For insurance purposes, he'd said. I grabbed the spare key from the junk drawer, my hand shaking so badly I could barely fit it in the lock. The garage was cold and smelled of oil. I slipped into the driver's seat of his immaculate sedan, the leather squeaking under my weight. The small camera was mounted just behind the rearview mirror. A tiny red light blinked oblivious. With trembling fingers, I ejected the small micro SD card. It felt hot to the touch, like a stolen jewel. Back in the house, I slid the card into the adapter and plugged it into my laptop. The folder was full of video files labeled by date. I scrolled back. Asterisk Tuesday. The day Ellie disappeared. Asterisk, my cursor hovered over the first file from that morning. My stomach churned with a nauseous mix of dread and certainty. I was about to either confirm my husband was a monster or discover that I was a paranoid, untrusting wife. There was no in between. I took a deep breath, the click of the mouse sounding like a gunshot in the silent house. The video player opened the screen black for a moment before the footage began to load. Just then I heard the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway. Headlights slashed across the living room windows. He was home early. My hand flew to the trackpad, slamming the laptop shut a second before the front door opened. The click of the deadbolt sliding home sounded like a cell door locking. "Judy, you're still up?" Mark's voice was thick-laced with beer and poker night bonhomie. He dropped his keys in the ceramic bowl by the door. "Couldn't sleep," I said, my own voice a stranger's. I didn't turn around from the kitchen table. The laptop felt like a live grenade in front of me. "Yeah, this whole Ellie thing has been rough," he said, coming up behind me. He put his hands on my shoulders, and I had to physically restrain myself from flinching. "We'll get through it." He kissed the top of my head and padded off toward the bedroom. I waited until I heard the shower turn on. Then, with a hand that felt disconnected from my body, I opened the laptop again. I pressed play. The footage was timestamped Tuesday morning, 9:14 a.m. The camera showed our street, then the turn onto the highway. Mark was humming along to the radio. Ellie was in the passenger seat, her graying muzzle resting on the center console. She looked calm, happy to be on a car ride with her person. My stomach twisted. He drove for hours. He crossed the state line into Ohio, then kept going. The scenery blurred into an endless ribbon of concrete and trees. He didn't stop for water. He just drove. Finally, he pulled off the interstate onto a dusty rural access road. He got out, opened Ellie's door, and clipped on her leash. She trotted beside him, tail giving a few hopeful thumps. He walked her into a wide, empty field bordered by woods. He unclipped the leash. For a moment, he just stood there. Ellie looked up at him, her old brown eyes full of absolute trust. He reached into the back seat and pulled out her favorite worn frisbee. My breath caught in my throat. Asterisk. No. Asterisk. He wound up and threw it a perfect soaring arc toward the far end of the field. "Go get it, Elle, fetch," he yelled, his voice bright and encouraging on the recording. Ellie, bless her arthritic heart, took off in a clumsy, joyous gallop. As she bounded away, he turned, walked calmly back to the car, and got in. He didn't look back. He just started the engine and drove away, leaving a small cloud of dust in his wake. The camera recorded the empty road ahead as he merged back onto the highway heading east. Heading home. I watched it 3 times. The casual, calculated cruelty of it knocked the air from my lungs. He didn't just abandon her. He used her love for him, her trust, as the weapon to do it. The next morning, I waited until Lily was on the school bus. Mark was in his office on a video call, laughing with a client. I walked and set the laptop on his desk and hit play. I didn't say a word. He watched, his smile evaporating. The color drained from his face, leaving a pasty, slack-jawed mask. The video ended. The silence in the room was deafening. "Judy." He started, his voice a pathetic rasp. "It's not what it looks like." "Then what is it, Mark?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "What does it look like when you drive our 13-year-old dog 800 miles, trick her into running away from you, and leave her to die in a field?" He flinched. "I didn't leave her to die, He stammered, his eyes darting around the room, searching for an escape hatch. I wanted her to have a better life. On a farm, I thought. I thought someone would find her a nice farmer, and she could run around and be happy, not cooped up here all the time. The sheer idiotic fantasy of it was almost more insulting than the act itself. He thought he was the hero in a children's story, benevolently releasing an animal into the wild. A farm, I repeated the word, tasting like poison. You left her by an interstate in Nebraska, Mark. You are a coward and a monster. I turned and walked out. I went to our bedroom and pulled a suitcase from the closet. The next day, the real him showed up. The pathetic cornered man was gone, replaced by righteous indignation. I was on the phone with the rescue, arranging to fly into Omaha and rent a car when he stormed into the kitchen. You went through my private property, he seethed, jabbing a finger toward his car keys on the counter. You and your daughter, a couple of little snoops. You had no right to look at that footage. That's a complete violation of my privacy. I just stared at him. Lily didn't see it, I said coldly. It doesn't matter. You're teaching her to be just like you. Untrusting. Sneaky. What kind of idiots violate someone's privacy like that? And there it was. Not remorse, not shame. Just rage that he'd been caught. His crime wasn't the issue. My discovery of it was. In his mind, I was the one who had betrayed him asterisk. That afternoon, I packed Ellie's remaining things, her favorite squeaky hedgehog, the plaid blanket she slept on, into a box. I drove it to my parents' house and told them everything. My dad, a man of few words, just clenched his jaw and nodded. My mom held me while I finally broke down and cried, not for my marriage, but for my sweet, loyal dog who deserved so much better. When I got home, I started gathering documents. Bank statements, car titles, mortgage paperwork, his 401k login that I knew he never changed. I moved them into a folder on a thumb drive. A cold, methodical purpose settling over me. This wasn't just about leaving. This was about surviving. Mark found me in the office printing our last 2 years of tax returns. What the hell are you doing? He demanded. I'm getting my affairs in order, I said, not looking up from the printer. This is insane, Judy. You're throwing away 12 years of marriage over a dog. His voice cracked with disbelief. I did it for us. So I could focus on my work. So the house would be cleaner. It was for her own good too, I told you. The farm. Stop talking about the farm, I finally yelled, whirling to face him. There is no farm. There is only your selfishness and your cruelty. He took a step back, stunned by my fury. You have to trust me, he pleaded, his voice suddenly soft, manipulative. I'm your husband. I love you. I laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Trust you. You've been complaining about that dog since you started working from home. You told me she was ruining the aesthetic of your office. You said my worrying about her arthritis was unattractive. You were jealous, Mark. You were jealous of a sick old dog. Because I loved her. And she took up a sliver of my time. This isn't about Ellie. This is about you. Your ego is so fragile you couldn't handle not being the center of attention for 5 minutes. The truth of it hung in the air between us, stark and undeniable. I saw it all now, the little misogynistic digs disguised as jokes, the subtle ways he'd isolated me from my friends, his resentment of anything that brought me joy outside of him. Ellie's abandonment wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a sickness I had refused to see. I pulled the last page from the printer and slipped the whole stack into a manila envelope. I'm going to Nebraska tomorrow to get my dog. When I get back, I'm moving in with my parents. Lily's coming with me. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. I walked past him, my suitcase bumping against the doorframe. For the first time in days, I didn't feel broken. I felt clear. The man in my house was a stranger, and I was finally on my way to a rescue. We both were. Story 9. Living at home at 22 wasn't my grand plan, but it was a smart one. My parents, bless them, cleared out the guest room and basically said, "Save your money, figure things out." It was perfect. My dad and I would watch old action movies, my mom and I would gossip over tea. It was easy, comfortable, an idyllic little bubble designed to launch me into the real world, financially sound and emotionally supported. My only real daily ritual, my one small indulgence, was a can of sparkling lemonade. Not the sugary kind, but the zero sugar stuff in a slim silver can. It was my after-work treat. I'd come home from a long restaurant shift, kick off my non-slip shoes and crack one open. The hiss was the sound of my day officially ending. For the first few months, my mom was my chief enabler. She'd see them on sale at the grocery store and grab a case. "Abby got your fizzy lemon water," she'd call out as she unpacked the bags. It was a little thing, but it felt like love. A shorthand for "I was thinking of you." Then about a month ago, the lemonade stopped appearing. The first week I figured she just forgot. No big deal. I added it to the shared digital shopping list. The next day, the item was deleted. I put it back. It was deleted again. I found her in the kitchen wiping down an already spotless counter. "Hey, Mom. Did you see I added the lemonade to the list?" Her shoulders tensed. "Yes. We're not getting those anymore." "Oh. Okay," I said, confused. "Are they too expensive? I can give you cash for them." "It's not about the money, Abigail." She didn't look at me. Her voice was flat, cold. "Okay. So what is it about?" She turned the faucet on, a blast of water filling the silence. "We're just not." The conversation was over. It was so weird, so unlike her, that I just let it go. Maybe the company had a scandal or something. The next day on my way home from work, I swung by a gas station and bought a 1-2 pack myself. I walked into the house and set the cardboard box on the counter. My mom was on the couch reading. She looked up, her eyes zeroing in on the box like it was a live grenade. The smile on her face didn't just vanish. It was vacuumed away, replaced by a tight, thin line. She stood up, walked into the kitchen, and started unloading the dishwasher with a series of loud, deliberate clinks that sounded like gunshots in the quiet house. "Mom, is everything okay?" I asked, my stomach twisting. "Everything's fine," she clipped out, slamming a plate into the cupboard. It wasn't fine. For the next 2 weeks, a bizarre Cold War descended upon our home. Every time I opened the fridge to grab a can, she'd find a reason to be in the kitchen, her presence a heavy, disapproving weight. She'd glare at the can in my hand. If I was drinking one on the couch, she'd get up and leave the room. I tried everything. Logic, pleading. I cornered her while she was gardening, thinking the fresh air might help. "Mom, seriously. This is insane. It's lemonade. Did you read an article that says it's bad for you? Because it's just carbonated water and flavoring. There's no sugar. No aspartame, nothing." She kept yanking weeds, her knuckles white. "I don't want to talk about it. But I do. You're acting like I brought hard drugs into the house. You won't even look at me. Just tell me what's wrong. Did I do something to upset you? You're being dramatic, she muttered, tossing a clump of crabgrass into her bucket. I'm being dramatic. You haven't spoken more than 3 words to me in a week because of a beverage. She stood up, brushing dirt from her knees. If you can't see it, I can't explain it. She walked back inside, leaving me alone in the yard, my head pounding with frustration. My dad was useless. When I asked him what was going on, he just shook his head. Your mother gets a bee in her bonnet sometimes, you know that. Just let it go. It'll pass. But it wasn't passing. It was getting worse. The air in the house was thick with unspoken tension. The silence was louder than any argument. I started feeling like a trespasser in my own home. My simple habit recast as some terrible crime. I was hurt, I was angry. And most of all, I was utterly bewildered. What on earth had possessed my mother? Last night was the breaking point. It was the end of a brutal double shift. My feet ached. A customer had accused me of stealing his pen. It was in his shirt pocket, and all I wanted was my stupid can of lemonade and 15 minutes of brain-dead reality TV. I walked in, dropped my bag, and went straight to the fridge. I pulled out a can of cold metal, a small comfort in my hand. I popped the top. The familiar hiss echoed through the kitchen, and my mother appeared in the doorway like a ghost. Her face was pale, her eyes wide and glittering with something that looked terrifyingly like rage. I cannot believe you, she whispered, her voice trembling. I sighed, too tired for this. Mom, for the love of God. It is a can of lemonade. You don't get it. She suddenly shrieked, the sound so sharp and loud it made me flinch. You are so unbelievably selfish. You just waltz in here day after day, and you shove it in my face. Do you have any idea what you're doing to me? To this family? Tears were streaming down her face now. She was completely hysterical. What are you talking about? I yelled back, my own exhaustion and frustration boiling over. Doing what to you? It's a drink. It affects literally no one. It affects me, she screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. I see you. I see what you're doing, and you don't even have the decency to care how it makes me feel. My dad rushed in from the living room, his face a mask of alarm. Mary, calm down. What's going on? She ignored him. Her eyes locked on mine. They were filled with a terrifying mix of fury and anguish. That's it, she said, her voice dropping to a low, deadly serious tone. I'm done. I'm done watching you do this to yourself, to us. She took a deep breath, her whole body rigid. Either that habit stops right now, or you can pack your bags and get out. I want it out of my house, and I want it to stop. I mean it, Abigail. The world tilted. Kicked out over lemonade. The absurdity of it all crashed into the genuine threat in her eyes. The cold can in my hand suddenly felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Stop? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My mind was racing, trying to find a single thread of logic in her breakdown. Stop? Times? What times? What are you talking about? You have to tell me what you think is going on. My mom just stared at me, her tears slowing, her expression hardening into something unreadable and absolute. You know, she said, her voice flat and final. You know exactly what. The words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. You know. I stared at her, my mind a blank wall of static. My dad hovered uselessly in the doorway, wringing his hands. For a solid 10 seconds, nobody moved. Then I turned without a word, walked to the sink, and poured the entire can of lemonade down the drain. The fizzy sound was obscene in the silence. I rinsed the can, placed it in the recycling bin with a quiet click, and walked past both of them to my room. I didn't pack. I just sat on my bed in the dark, my phone clutched in my hand. I scrolled to my brother's contact. Alex answered on the second ring. "Hey, what's up?" "Mom threatened to kick me out." I said, my voice flat. "What? Over what?" "Lemonade." Silence. Then a weary sigh. "I'll be there in an hour. Don't do anything stupid." An hour later, the four of us were sitting at the dining room table. It felt like a corporate intervention. Alex sat at the head, a self-appointed mediator. My dad was next to my mom, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. I sat opposite them, my hands folded neatly on the table. Alex cleared his throat. "Okay. Mom, Abby says you told her to stop her habit or move out. We need you to explain what that means. Right now." My mom stared at her hands, twisting her wedding ring. "She knows." "No," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I really truly don't. I've spent a month trying to figure out what I did wrong, and I have nothing. So please just tell me. What is the habit you think I have?" She took a shaky breath and finally looked at me. Her eyes red-rimmed and full of a terrible misplaced certainty. "I saw a documentary a couple of months ago, Abigail, on eating disorders." The world stopped spinning. It was so far out of left field I almost laughed. "A documentary? Of course." "And I started paying attention," she continued, her voice gaining a frantic momentum, as she finally unleashed the theory she'd been building in her head. "It all fits. All the signs. You're so thin. You're always wearing those big baggy sweaters and sweatshirts even when it's not cold. Layers. That's what they do to hide their bodies." She pointed a trembling finger at my wrist. "And that watch. You never take it off. You're obsessed with it. Counting every step, every calorie you burn. It's a compulsion." My brother stared at her, his mouth slightly agape. I just watched her, a cold dread washing over me. "And the meals," she said, her voice rising. "I never see you eat a real meal anymore. You come home from work and you're never hungry for dinner. You just grab one of those cans." She finally looked at the invisible can of lemonade between us on the table, the source of all this madness. "And that's the biggest sign of all. 0 sugar. Low calorie. It's a safe drink. It fills you up so you don't have to eat real food. I looked it up online. It's what they all do." She leaned forward, her eyes pleading. "I tried to get you to stop. I stopped buying it. I got angry when you brought it home. I thought if I made it a big deal, you'd see that I knew. That you would stop hiding it." The silence that followed was profound. My dad was staring at my mom as if he'd never seen her before. Alex looked like he'd been poleaxed. I felt a strange sense of calm descend. The insanity finally had a name. I took a slow, deliberate breath. "Okay," I said, my voice even. "Let's go through your evidence." I met her gaze. "First, I'm thin." "Yes. So are you. So is Dad." It's called genetics, Mom. I have the same body I've had since I was 16. I tugged at the sleeve of my oversized crew neck. Second, my clothes. I work in a restaurant. I wear comfortable things. Sometimes I like the way they look. It's called style. Also, the walk-in freezer is 35 degrees. Layers are practical. I held up my wrist. Third, my Apple Watch. It was a birthday gift from Alex. It tells me the time. It shows me texts from my friends when my phone is in my locker. I have never once in my life opened the calorie counting app. I leaned forward, placing my hands flat on the table. And finally the meals and the lemonade. Mom, my shift starts at 3. We get a staff meal around 4. I work until 11. I come home around 11:30. You are in bed. I am not hungry for a full dinner at midnight. I am thirsty. And I don't like sugary drinks. I never have. I drink zero sugar lemonade because I like the taste. That is the beginning and the end of the story. Every word was a small, sharp pinprick in the balloon of her conspiracy. I watched it deflate, her certainty crumbling, replaced by a wave of dawning horror. Her face crumpled. "Oh God," she whispered, covering her mouth with her hand. "Oh my God, Abby." A sob escaped her, raw and ugly. I was so scared. I saw that show and the girl, she looked like you. She did all those things and her parents didn't see it until it was too late. I thought I was losing you. So you decided to threaten me. I asked, the hurt finally cracking through my calm. To kick me out. You thought that would help? I didn't know what to do, she cried, tears streaming down her face. I was trying to shock you. I thought if I made it impossible for you to do it here, you'd have to admit you needed help. I was trying to save you. By terrorizing me, I shot back. By making me feel like a criminal in my own home for a month. You could have just talked to me. Mom. You could have just asked Abby, "Are you okay?" That's when I started to cry, hot tears of anger and relief and sheer exhausted frustration. Alex slid his chair next to mine and put an arm around my shoulders. My dad finally spoke, his voice thick. "Mary, I told you it was just a bee in your bonnet. And you let her do it anyway," I said, looking at him. He flinched and looked away, ashamed. We all sat there for a long time. My mom's sobs quieted. She looked up, her face blotchy and wrecked with guilt. "I am so sorry, Abby. There are no words. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I'm sorry." I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. "I know. I'm sorry," I yelled. The apology hung in the air, fragile and incomplete. "But this can't happen again," I said, my voice hardening with a resolve I didn't know I had. "This whole thing. You created a secret narrative in your head and you punished me for it. That's not okay." I looked from her to my dad. "I'll stay. For now. But we are going to get help. You and me, Mom. We're going to go to family therapy together. We are going to learn how to talk to each other. Because if anything like this ever happens again, if I find out you're keeping secrets and building resentments instead of just speaking to me, I will be gone the next day." I mean it. She nodded her eyes wide, accepting the terms of my surrender. The idyllic bubble was gone. It hadn't just been popped. It had been incinerated. Living at home was no longer easy or comfortable. It was conditional. My relationship with my mother, once the bedrock of my life, was now a fractured thing we had to carefully piece back together. Later that night, I went to the kitchen for a glass of water. Sitting on the counter was a single silver can of zero-sugar sparkling lemonade. A peace offering. I looked at it for a long time, then opened the fridge and just got the water. I wasn't ready yet. Some things once soured take a long time to taste sweet again. Story teen. I hate my phone. Not the device itself, it's a perfectly good soul-sucking rectangle of glass and aluminum, but the fact that it connects me to people I actively try to avoid. Specifically my family. The caller ID flashed Mom. I showed the screen to my wife Sarah, who was peacefully reading on the couch. She gave me a look that was 1 part pity, 2 parts don't you dare. I answered, "Hey Mom. Mark honey. Are you two on your way?" The forced cheerfulness was a weapon, and she was an expert marksman. On our way, where I asked, playing dumb. It was my only defense. The barbecue for your father. Don't tell me you forgot. I had absolutely 100% forgotten. On purpose. Ah, shoot. Sarah and I had plans, Mom. We were just heading out. Sarah shot me a glare. Liar. Cancel them. Mom said, the cheerfulness evaporating. Your sisters are already here with the kids. Your father wants to see you. This was the classic pincer move. Guilt from her obligation to him. The thing is, I knew for a fact my father wanted nothing more than to be left alone with a book and a silent television. This wasn't for him. It was for her. It was always for her. Mark. She pleaded, her voice dropping into that whiny, manipulative tone that made my teeth ache. Please? Just for a little while. It would mean the world to your father. I looked at Sarah. She sighed, closed her book, and gave a tiny defeated nod. She knew, just like I did, that the hour of pain now would be better than the week of guilt trip voicemails that would follow if we refused. Fine, I grumbled. We'll be there in 20. But we can't stay long. Wonderful drive, safe, click. Sarah stood up and stretched. How bad do you think it's going to be? On a scale of 1 to dumpster fire, I said, grabbing my keys. I'm betting on Inferno. I was an optimist. We pulled up to my parents' suburban home 20 minutes later, and the scene was already pure chaos. The front lawn looked like a vending machine had exploded, scattering juice boxes and chip bags everywhere. Shrill, indistinguishable screaming echoed from the backyard, punctuated by the tinny blast of some top 40 station I didn't recognize. Deep breaths. Sarah muttered as we got out of the car. Find your happy place. My happy place was anywhere but here. We walked through the side gate into the backyard, and it was like stepping onto the set of a disaster movie. My 2 sisters, Linda and Karen, were huddled by a cooler, already deep into a box of rosé. Their husbands, Chad and Greg, were manning the grill, Coors Lights in hand, surrounded by a plume of greasy smoke that suggested something was going very, very wrong with the burgers. And then there were the kids. The gremlins. 7 of them in total, ranging from 4 to 10. A shrieking feral pack of them running wild and completely unsupervised. My mom rushed over, her face a mask of frazzled hospitality. You made it, I'm so glad. She hugged me then, Sarah. Your sisters are, well, they're in a mood. And the kids are a little wound up, A little, I said, watching my nephew Kyle use a pool noodle to whack his younger cousin over the head. Nobody seemed to notice or care. Oh, you know, Mom said with a dismissive wave. Kids will be kids. I spotted my dad. He'd already executed his signature escape maneuver. He was sequestered in the far corner of the pool, half submerged in the bubbling whirlpool, sunglasses on a frosty beer perched on the edge. He gave me a slow, knowing nod. It was a gesture of pure solidarity. You're in the trenches now, son. Godspeed. Marky, Karen shrieked from across the yard, sloshing pink wine from her plastic cup. Be a doll and grab your big sis another bottle from the garage fridge, would ya? Get it yourself, Karen, I said without looking at her. Sarah nudged me. Be nice? That was me being nice, I muttered. We tried to find a quiet corner, a small island of sanity in the sea of madness, but it was no use. The chaos was magnetic. We were just standing there, trying to look pleasant, when a neighbor from next door, a friendly guy named Dave, poked his head over the fence. Hey, Frank smells good over here, he called out to my dad, who pointedly ignored him. Greg, Karen's husband, waved him in. Come on over, Dave, grab a beer. Dave, a man who clearly made poor life choices, accepted. He came through the gate, a hopeful smile on his face. He was wearing khaki shorts, a polo shirt, and brand new looking white sneakers. He was an innocent, a lamb to the slaughter. He made the fatal mistake of standing near the edge of the pool to talk to Chad. I saw it happen in slow motion. The gremlin pack stopped their various acts of terror. A silent predatory signal passed between them. Their eyes locked on Dave. 3 of the older ones, Linda's twin boys, and Karen's oldest daughter, peeled off from the group. They lowered their shoulders and broke into a dead sprint. Guys, no, I said, but it was too late. The trio hit Dave like a tiny sugar-fueled battering ram. He yelped, arms flailing, and tumbled backward into the deep end with a massive splash. He surfaced a moment later, sputtering, his polo shirt plastered to his chest, his face a perfect blend of shock and fury. The backyard erupted, not with concern, but with laughter. My sisters were bent over cackling. Chad and Greg were howling, slapping their knees. Oh my God, Linda gasped, wiping away a tear of mirth. They got you so good, Dave. Sarah and I were the only ones not laughing. I walked over to the edge of the pool. You okay, man? Dave slicked his wet hair back, his jaw tight. I'm fine, he seethed. His phone was in his pocket. His wallet, too. Probably his keys. He hoisted himself out of the pool, dripping and humiliated. Lighten up, Dave, Karen shouted. It was just a prank, kids are having fun. Dave didn't say another word. He just shot a murderous look at my laughing sisters, then stalked back toward the gate, leaving a trail of chlorinated water behind him. The laughter died down as he left, but the energy in the yard had shifted. The gremlins had tasted blood. They were amped up, victorious, scanning the horizon for their next victim. I tried to fade into the background, grabbing a bottle of water and retreating to a spot near the patio door. I just had to survive another 30 minutes. I could do it. I could be a ghost. But you can't hide from predators. I felt it before I saw it. A sudden quiet in the shrieking. A change in the air. I looked up from my water bottle and saw them. 3 of them. Kyle, Dylan, and Chloe. The same 3 who had sacrificed Dave to the pool gods. They were standing 20 yards away near the smoking grill. And they were staring right at me. A slow, wicked grin spread across Kyle's face. He nodded to the other two. There was no mistaking the intent. I was standing maybe 5 feet from the pool's edge. I was the next target. They lowered their heads. They started to run. Their little legs churned, picking up speed, a thundering of tiny feet on the grass. They were a unified force of destruction, a heat-seeking missile of childhood malice aimed directly at my back. I had a split second, a single moment to decide. Let them hit me, sacrifice my phone, my wallet, my dignity, all for their parents' twisted amusement. Or not. Their gleeful war cry shrieks filled the air as they closed the distance. 10 feet? 5 feet. I saw them coming. I'm Alexander, and here's your story. It wasn't a decision so much as an instinct. A flick of a switch between victim and not today. At the last possible fraction of a second, I took one simple calm step to my left. Physics did the rest. The three-child projectile, having aimed for a stationary object that was no longer there, had nowhere to go but forward. Their combined momentum was impressive. They shot past the spot where I'd been standing, a tangle of flailing limbs and surprised shrieks, and plunged directly into the deep end of the pool. The splash was enormous. For a single beautiful second, there was silence, broken only by the sound of displaced water slapping against the concrete. Then all hell broke loose. My baby's Linda, shrieked her rosé, slurred voice cutting through the air like a siren. Karen was right behind her. What the hell did you do, Mark? They scrambled toward the pool, all pretense of tipsy fun gone, replaced by screeching panicked rage. Chad and Greg dropped their tongs and sprinted over, their faces red with booze and anger. I didn't move. I just stood there watching the chaos I had failed to become a part of. Kyle and Dylan surfaced, sputtering and coughing, their eyes wide with shock. But Chloe, the youngest of the trio, was thrashing her head, bobbing under the water. She can't swim. Linda screamed, pointing a trembling accusatory finger at me. You idiot, she can't swim. Greg, a man who outweighed me by a good 50 pounds of beer and bad choices, dove in with a clumsy belly flop that sent a tidal wave over the side. He grabbed Chloe and hauled her to the steps, where she sat coughing up chlorinated water and crying. The other two, Kyle and Dylan, were paddling frantically. My phone, Dylan wailed, pointing toward the bottom of the pool. Mom's phone was in my pocket. Mine too, Kyle yelled. Dad's. And there it was. The real source of the panic. Not the near drowning, but the submerged electronics. Karen whirled on me, her face a grotesque mask of fury. Are you happy now? You could have killed her. And Greg's brand new iPhone is ruined. What is wrong with you? Me, I said, my voice dangerously calm. Sarah had moved to my side, her hand on my arm. I didn't do anything. I just moved. Maybe if you were watching your children instead of power drinking cheap wine, they wouldn't have been using a human being as a bowling pin. Their kids, Chad bellowed, stepping up to me, jabbing a finger in my chest. They were just having fun. You're supposed to just take it. It's a joke. Pushing a 40-year-old man into a pool is a joke. Sarah shot back, her voice firm. Ruining his phone is a joke. What's wrong with you people? You don't have kids, you wouldn't understand. Linda sobbed, cradling her dripping, traumatized daughter, who was now more upset about the lost phone than the lack of oxygen. I understand negligence, I said, looking from Linda to Karen to their idiot husbands. I understand that your kids nearly drowned themselves. And you're more pissed off about 2 phones at the bottom of the pool. It's your job to watch them. Not mine, not your neighbors. Yours. My mom was fluttering in the background, wringing her hands. Mark, please just apologize. Let's not fight. I looked past them all toward the whirlpool. My dad hadn't moved. He'd taken off his sunglasses and was watching the entire scene unfold with the detached interest of a man watching a nature documentary. He met my eyes and gave me the slightest of nods. It was all the confirmation I needed. Apologize. I laughed a sharp, ugly sound. For what? For not letting your feral offspring assault me for your entertainment, no. I'm not apologizing. You're lucky I'm not calling Child Protective Services. That was a mistake. Or maybe it was exactly the right thing to say. Greg had managed to hoist himself out of the pool. He was dripping, furious and unsteady on his feet. You son of a bitch, he slurred, stomping toward me. You think you can come into our house? It's my father's house, I corrected him. You think you can come here and endanger my kid? He was trying to be intimidating, puffing out his chest. But the combination of adrenaline, alcohol, and a waterlogged brain was too much for him. He took one more aggressive step, his foot slipped on a wet patch of concrete, and his arms pinwheeled wildly. He went down face first with a wet, meaty smack. He lay there groaning, a perfect metaphor for the entire afternoon. Nobody moved to help him. Okay, Sarah said, grabbing my hand. We're done here. We turned and walked away. The screaming followed us, a chorus of blame and vitriol. You're an asshole, Mark. This is all your fault. You're paying for those phones. We didn't look back. We walked through the side gate past the exploded vending machine lawn and got in our car. I started the engine and pulled away from the curb, leaving the suburban inferno behind us. The silence in the car was heavy for a full 2 minutes. Well, Sarah said, finally staring out the window. I'd say that went about as expected. I snorted. I owe you $1,000 and a week-long vacation. Damn right you do, she said, but she was smiling. She reached over and squeezed my hand. You did the right thing, you know. I know. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out at the next red light. A new group text had been created. Family emergency. I was the only one in it besides my sisters, their husbands, and my mother. Karen Times. You are a monster. Chloe has a scratch on her knee because of you. Asterisk. Linda Times, I hope you're proud of yourself. $2,000 in phones gone because you couldn't just be a good sport. You're paying us back. Asterisk. Chad Times. Your dad is so disappointed in you. Asterisk. That was the one that made me laugh. I glanced at the rearview mirror, picturing him in his whirlpool, the king on his bubbling throne, watching the empire burn. Disappointed. He was probably the proudest he'd been of me in years. Mom Times Mark. Please call me. This can all be fixed if you just say you're sorry. Asterisk. I showed the screen to Sarah. She read the messages and shook her head slowly. They're insane, she said. Actually, medically insane. They're not insane, I said, turning the phone over in my hand. They're just selfish, entitled idiots who never grew up. And they're raising a new generation of them. I held my thumb over the leave conversation button. It felt like the culmination of decades of this nonsense. All the forced holidays, the biting my tongue, the playing along with the jokes. It was all a build-up to this. A choice. The same choice I'd had at the edge of the pool. Let them shove me or step aside. I stepped aside. I blocked every number in the group. Linda, Karen, Chad, Greg, even my mom. I knew she was just their pawn, but enablers are part of the machine. What about your dad? Sarah asked quietly. Dad and I have an understanding, I said. He'll call me from the landline tomorrow when everyone's gone. We drove the rest of the way home in comfortable silence. I knew the war wasn't over. There would be voicemails, emails, attempts to get other relatives involved. But for the first time, I didn't feel dread. I didn't feel guilt. I felt the clean, quiet peace of a door firmly closed. They could have their chaos. They could have their little idiots and their broken phones and their boxed wine. I had my sanity, and I wasn't giving it up for anyone.
Story 11.
My sister Ashley has always believed my gemology degree is basically a certificate for advanced bedazzling. To her, I'm not a graduate gemologist from the GIA. I'm a glorified mall kiosk worker who got lucky with a storefront. She, on the other hand, is a curator of domestic excellence. That's what she calls being a stay-at-home mom in a 5,000 square foot McMansion married to a man who probably thinks a carrot is something you feed a rabbit. Our dynamic was set in stone decades ago. She was the pretty one, the popular one, the one who married rich. I was the quiet one, the nerdy one. The one who spent her weekends with a loop and a refractometer. So when Mom, her voice thin as parchment from the cancer, told us to divide her jewelry, I knew exactly how it would go. I want you girls to do it together, she'd whispered from her bed, the room smelling of lavender and antiseptic. Don't let it become a thing after I'm gone. Just be fair. Ashley clasped Mom's hand, her face a perfect mask of tragic sympathy. Of course, Mommy. We'll honor you. We'll make sure your legacy is preserved. I just nodded, my throat too tight to speak. I knew Ashley's idea of legacy had a lot more to do with appraisal value than sentiment. A week later, with Mom moved to hospice, Ashley and I stood in her bedroom. The air was stale, thick with the ghost of her perfume. On the floral bedspread, Ashley had dumped the contents of 3 jewelry boxes. It was a dragon's hoard of a life's collection, costume jewelry from the 50s, fine jewelry from my father, trendy pieces from the 80s, gaudy baubles from cruises. Ashley was practically vibrating. She ran her lacquered nails over a chunky gold-plated necklace with enormous faux turquoise stones. Oh my God, I remember this. She wore this to my high school graduation. It's iconic. I picked it up. The weight was all wrong, too light. The gold was already flaking near the clasp. It was a department store special, probably cost $20 in 1998. It's a classic, all right, I said, my voice carefully neutral. I'll take this one for sentimental reasons, she announced, placing it on her side of the bed. Her keep pile. It was the opening salvo. She moved like a shark in a feeding frenzy. Her eyes, trained by years of flipping through Vogue and not much else, went straight for the biggest, loudest, most ostentatious pieces. A massive cocktail ring with a central stone the color of Windex and the clarity of a frozen pond. Statement piece, she declared. Asterisk into the pile, asterisk. A bib necklace made of gigantic multicolored crystals that screamed 80s prom. So retro chic. Asterisk into the pile, asterisk. A thick gold tone cuff bracelet with the heft of a lead pipe. Timeless, asterisk into her pile asterisk. I watched her, my professional brain cataloging the fakes. The cocktail ring stone was glass, its prongs glued. The crystal necklace was acrylic, the chain base metal. The cuff was brass-plated, probably from a forgotten brand called Glamour Gals. It was a pile of glittery, worthless junk. And she was treating it like the crown jewels. This was my moment. The crossroads. I could be the good sister, the expert. I could say, Ash, honey, that's not real. Mom kept the good stuff separate. I could save her the embarrassment of trying to insure a pile of scrap metal. Or I could let the laws of nature take their course. I reached for a garish brooch, a sunburst of fake diamonds and emeralds so green they looked radioactive. You know, I began, my voice laced with fake wistfulness. I was always mesmerized by this one. Dad gave it to her for their 20th anniversary. It was a lie. Dad had taste. He would have sooner died than buy this monstrosity. Ashley's head snapped up. Her eyes narrowed. Really, I don't remember that. She snatched it from my hand. It's very grand. It needs the right kind of event. I have a charity gala next month. It would be perfect. She placed it possessively on her pile, which was now glittering like a pirate's chest. I let my shoulders slump. Okay. Well, if you think you'll wear it more. Game on. For the next hour, I put on an Oscar-worthy performance. I'd pick up a pair of enormous hollow gold-plated hoops and sigh. These just feel like Mom, you know? Ashley would swoop in. They're a little bold for you, Maddie. You're more subtle. I'll keep them safe. I'd gently touch a heavy chain with a pendant the size of a doorknob, its stone a swirl of cheap purple enamel. I remember her wearing this to church. That's because she had the confidence to pull it off. Ashley would counter, adding it to her mountain of treasure. You have to be careful with pieces like this. They can easily wear times you asterisk. I let her win every single time. I played the part of the sentimental little sister fighting for cheap memories, while she played the sophisticated heir, curating a collection of important pieces. She'd hold up some god-awful rhinestone monstrosity, and I'd put up a token fight, letting her talk me down, making her feel like she'd out-negotiated me. The more I wanted a piece of junk, the more she was convinced of its value. All the while, my hands were quietly, methodically moving through the real treasure she was ignoring. A simple thin 1/8 carat gold chain. It looked like nothing, but the maker's mark was Tiffany. Asterisk my pile asterisk. A pair of small, almost boring diamond studs. Ashley didn't even glance at them, but I knew from 10 feet away they were VVS 1/2 a carat each. A gift from Dad after I was born. Asterisk my pile asterisk. An antique platinum ring with a delicate filigree setting holding a tiny cornflower blue sapphire. It was my great-grandmother's. To Ashley, it was just a dinky little thing. Asterisk my pile asterisk. The plain gold locket, the simple strand of Akoya pearls with the diamond clasp. The slim Cartier watch that needed a new battery. One by one, the quiet, elegant times, real times pieces went into my small, unassuming velvet bag. By the end, the bed was starkly divided. On her side lay a mountain of gaudy, glittering metal and glass that looked like it had been scraped off the floor of a casino. On my side was a small, quiet little pouch. Ashley surveyed her loot with a smug, triumphant smile. Well, I think that's fair. I took the more significant pieces since I do more entertaining and you have the smaller, everyday things. It just makes sense. It makes sense, I agreed, my face a carefully constructed mask of resignation. She packed her treasures into 2 large tote bags, the cheap metal clanking together like a wind chime in a storm. Don't look so sad, Maddie, she said, patting my shoulder with faux sympathy. You got the things that have times sentimental times value. I'm the one stuck having to get all this, appraised and insured. It's a huge responsibility. A real burden, I mumbled. She swept out of the room, leaving me alone with the silence and the faint smell of Mom's perfume. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, the small, heavy pouch in my lap. She took the flash. I took the history. She took the noise. I took the value. I reached into my bag and pulled out the platinum ring. I slipped it onto my finger, the metal cool against my skin. The small sapphire seemed to glow with its own internal light. It was real. It was quiet. And it was mine. I knew even then that the silence wouldn't last forever. Greed has a way of shouting, and my sister's ignorance was a ticking time bomb I had just handed her. The first family gathering without Mom was my cousin's engagement party, held 6 months after the funeral. It was a forced fun affair in a rented hall with bad champagne and relatives making stilted conversation. I wore a simple black dress, my only accessory the thin 1/8-carat gold chain from Mom's collection. The one with the Tiffany maker's mark. It was subtle, barely noticeable. Which was the point. Ashley, of course, arrived looking like a float in a parade. She wore a skin-tight red dress, and around her neck the gaudy gold-plated monstrosity with the fake turquoise stones. The one she claimed was iconic. From across the room, I could see the cheap plating was already starting to wear, revealing a dull gray metal beneath. She looked ridiculous, and I felt a private, satisfying smirk curl my lips. Maddie, darling, my Aunt Carol, enveloped me in a cloud of Chanel No. 5. Her eyes, sharp and discerning, immediately fell to the chain around my neck. Oh, that was your mother's, wasn't it? The one your father bought her for their first anniversary in New York. It was. I smiled. I'm glad you remember it. How could I forget? She said, her voice carrying across the lull in conversation. Your father was so proud. He dragged me all over Manhattan to find the perfect simple chain from Tiffany's. Paid a fortune for it even back then. Said anything else was just noise. I saw Ashley's head turn. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows furrowed. She was standing near the cheese board mid-gossip with another cousin. But Aunt Carol's voice had snagged her attention like a fishhook. Aunt Carol, oblivious, continued. It's true what they say. Quality is quiet. That little thing is probably worth more than all the costume junk she bought over the years combined. A true classic. The color drained from Ashley's face. She looked from Aunt Carol to the delicate chain on my neck, and then with dawning horror down at the chunky, flaking disaster piece she was wearing. The gears were turning. I could practically see the smoke coming out of her ears as she mentally replayed that afternoon in Mom's bedroom. My fake sighs. My strategic retreats. My quiet little pouch. She dropped a cracker loaded with brie. It hit the floor with a soft splat. Her eyes locked on mine across the room. They weren't just angry. They were incandescent with rage. She started walking towards me, her stilettos clicking like gunshots on the polished floor. The party seemed to fade into the background. What she said, her voice dangerously low, did she just say? Aunt Carol, I asked, playing dumb. She was just reminiscing about Mom and Dad. Don't you play stupid with me, Maddie, she hissed, grabbing my arm. Her lacquered nails dug into my skin. That necklace. Tiffany's worth a fortune. It has sentimental value. I said, parroting her own words back to her. Her face contorted into an ugly mask. You bitch, she whispered, the venom in her voice turning heads. You scheming, conniving little bitch. And then she started screaming. You tricked me. The entire hall went silent. Every eye was on us. You sat there and let me take a pile of worthless, cheap junk while you stole all the real stuff. She ripped the faux turquoise necklace off and threw it on the floor. It clattered with a hollow, tinny sound. This is garbage. It's all garbage. Isn't it? The ring, the bracelets, all of it. I pulled my arm from her grasp. We divided it, Ashley. You took what you wanted. You called them significant pieces. Remember? Because you times made times me want them. She shrieked, her voice cracking. You pretended to fight me for them. You used your stupid little degree against me. Against your own sister. Her husband, a beefy man named Tom, who always looked slightly confused, bustled over. What's going on here? Ashley calmed down. She cheated me. Tom, Ashley wailed, pointing a trembling accusatory finger at me. She used her job to swindle me out of my inheritance. Now the whole family was closing and forming a tight circle of judgment around us. I felt like an animal in a zoo. That's a serious accusation, Ashley. Uncle Robert said, his face grim. It's the truth. She sobbed. Ask her. Ask her what else she took. I bet that dinky little sapphire ring is real too. And the boring earrings, she knew. She knew all along, and she let me look like a fool. All eyes turned to me. I could feel the weight of their collective stare. My quiet victory had suddenly become a very public spectacle. I didn't cheat anyone, I said, my voice steady, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. Ashley's always looked down on my career, called it a silly hobby. For once I used my knowledge. She made her choices based on her own values, big, flashy, and loud. I made mine. It's not my fault her taste is worthless. A collective gasp went through the circle. It was the wrong thing to say, too sharp, too true. I had just confirmed her accusations. So, you admitted, Ashley spat. You ran a con on your own family minutes after we lost our mother. It's not a con to be quiet and know what you're looking at, I shot back. It's called expertise, something you've belittled my entire life. This is unethical, Tom boomed, puffing out his chest. Family doesn't do this to family. You will bring everything back and we will redivide it properly. With a third-party appraiser. No, I said. The word was flat. Final. I'm not doing that. We made an agreement. Mom told us to do it together. We did. It's over. Aunt Carol stepped forward, her face etched with regret. Maddie dear, perhaps he's right. For the sake of peace, there is no peace with her, Aunt Carol. I said, looking right at my sister, who was now performing a full-blown meltdown complete with heaving sobs. There never has been. She just wants to win. You're the one who wanted to win, Ashley screamed through her tears. And you're a thief. A common thief. Who should have her stupid license taken away. The pressure was immense. Cousins were whispering. Uncles were shaking their heads. I saw the disappointment in their faces, not directed at Ashley for her greed, but at me for my deception. They didn't see the decades of condescension, the constant belittling, the smug superiority. They just saw one sister crying and the other standing cold and defiant. I had played the long game and won. But standing there branded a cheat by my own family, I felt the victory turn to ash in my mouth. For months, I had been smug, satisfied, certain in my righteous little revenge. But watching them all look at me not with admiration for my cleverness, but with contempt for my cruelty, a sliver of doubt crept in. Maybe they were right. Maybe I had crossed a line. I had used my head, but maybe I'd lost a piece of my heart in the process. I had the value, but she had the sympathy. And in a family, I was starting to realize that was the only currency that truly mattered.